It is 6 o'clock. I call this meeting of the Bibb County Board of Education to order for Monday, August 10, 2026. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. First on the agenda, board members, is approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Fickling, second by Dr. Woodford. Is there any discussion? There being none, all in favor of the motion, let it be known by the word aye. Aye. Opposed, no. There is none. That motion passes unanimously. Next on the agenda, we have the Instructional Services Committee. Dr. Lisa Boyd is the chair of that committee. So, Dr. Boyd, take it away, please.
Thank you, President Morton. We have two items on the agenda tonight. One is a presentation and action, and one is a presentation. The first one is IS1, FY27, Gaining Early Awareness and Readiness for Undergraduate Programs. It's about the Gear Up grant. And we have Dr. Tracy Muff and Theron Bliss.
Good evening, Board President Morton, board members, and Superintendent Dr. Sims. This evening, we are delighted to present the Gear Up Summative Evaluation, highlighting the work centered around building the foundation for student success. The purpose of today's presentation is to provide an overview of the Year 1 evaluation, explain the role of the Gear Up External Evaluator, Towering Your Success, LLC, and demonstrate how the evaluation process supports continuous program improvement. Today's presentation will explain the responsibilities of the External Evaluator and the data sources used to assess program implementation. The strategic goal addressed is to increase student achievement. All students will continually demonstrate high academic and social emotional growth, preparing them for life, college, and careers. The performance measures are the percentage of students' average daily attendance, the percentage of students performing at the developing or proficient level in ELA and math, and lastly, the percentage of students demonstrating literacy readiness across grade bands. Always adhering to our mission, the Bibb County School District maximizes student achievement and social emotional well-being by building a sense of community in safe, equitable learning environments. And certainly our vision, students are empowered to learn, lead, innovate, and serve as productive and caring citizens within their chosen paths of success. The work of Gear Up is centered around our district's three overarching goals, infused by the guiding principles and brought to fruition by the 4Me learner outcomes. Gear Up, built for Bibb, is a 7-year grant funded by the U.S. Department of Education. The grant currently serves 3,412 students across 14 schools, including district special programs, and follows a cohort of students as they progress from middle school through high school. This long-term approach allows us to provide sustained support during some of the most critical years of a student's educational journey. The goal of Gear Up extends well beyond preparing students for graduation. We are committed to ensuring students are equipped with the academic skills, knowledge, and experiences necessary to successfully transition into post-secondary education and future careers. To accomplish this, we provide a comprehensive system of support that includes academic interventions, college and career readiness programming, mentoring, family engagement, financial literacy, and supplemental learning opportunities. At the heart of the Gear Up Built for Bibb partnership grant are three overarching goals that guide every aspect of our programming and serve as the framework for measuring success throughout the 7-year grant period. Collectively, these three goals provide the foundation for the Gear Up program and establish the outcomes our external evaluation is designed to measure. As you'll see throughout today's presentation, each evaluation finding is aligned to these goals and helps us determine how effectively we are supporting students on their path to post-secondary success. As part of every Gear Up partnership grant, the U.S. Department of Education requires an independent external evaluation to assess program implementation and progress toward grant objectives. This evaluation serves as an important accountability measure while also providing valuable feedback and supports the continuous program improvement. Towering Your Success, LLC, presently serves as the Gear Up External Evaluator. Now, the Gear Up evaluation process and key data points regarding the 2030-2031 cohorts will be shared by Chief Executive Officer of Towering Your Success, Mr. Thelron Pless. Mr. Pless.
Thank you so much, Dr. Muff. And so as we see here, there are 5 key areas that really guide our evaluation process. It's very systematic and very similar to any time that we are evaluating educational programs. We have a process where we are collecting data, and we utilize the district student information system as well as other instructional platforms that are used for instructional progress monitoring to help us to be able to establish a baseline for our student. And these baseline indicators covers many data elements, including academics, such as our student achievement data, students performing on the Georgia milestones. It also includes our progress monitoring tool, our Renaissance Learning platform that includes Star Reading as well as Star Math. We're also making sure that we're collecting data every 6 weeks as it relates to how our students are performing in each one of their classes, math, ELA, social studies, science, as well as their elective courses, as well as making sure we're collecting data related to how our students are attending school, as well as behavior incidents. That is just a beginning, a starting point for some of the data elements that we collect to be able to help guide the program's implementation, to be able to ensure that the Gear Up grant is truly meeting the outcomes and the requirements as determined by the United States Department of Education. In order for us to do that, once we collect these data, we have to make sure that we have a system and a process and infrastructure for how we manage all of these data. At this time, there's not a universal platform that really brings all of these data points together. And so our work in collaboration with the Bibb County School District, Department of District Effectiveness, federal programs, teaching and learning, the technology department all work together to be able to ensure that we have a strong data process for data quality, accuracy, but we also work with the school district to be able to design a customized data platform whereby the Bibb County School District is able to monitor all of these indicators by student, by school, as well as at a district level. And so through this data repository that is customly built for the school district, specifically for Gear Up, really provides the infrastructure that we need ultimately for when it's time to make decisions. And so in order for the school district to be able to make those decisions, we have to make sure that the data is analyzed in a way that's meaningful, that's actionable, to be able to drive continuous school improvement at the school as well as at the district level. And so Towering Your Success collaborates with the school district. We have the opportunity to be able to analyze data for the district, put together multiple types of visualization to be able to help make meaning of that data. And ultimately, we report these data to the school district as well as to the United States Department of Education as required by their evaluation requirements. And so one of the things that we first have to start with anytime that we're evaluating an educational program, we have to establish our baseline data. And our baseline data is essentially where do our students begin? Where do they start? We cannot truly effectively build a foundation of student success if we don't know who our students are, we don't know where they begin, and we don't necessarily know what they need. And so as the school district began its implementation, that's one of the first things that we have to establish. We need that so that we can truly be able to measure growth, so that we can measure content mastery, so that we can really measure student achievement. And so these data that you see here is the initial Gear Up cohort. And as Dr. Muff shared, this is a federal grant administered by the United States Department of Education. It utilizes a cohort model. And so Gear Up is a partnership grant. They have partnership Gear Up grants. They have state Gear Up grants. The school district has a partnership grant. And we utilize a cohort model. That cohort model is that at the time that this grant was awarded, there were 2 grade levels that were proposed to be served for all secondary schools in the district. That is the 6th and the 7th grade cohort. Those 2 cohorts, it is, as Dr. Muff shared, a 7-year grant. And so the 6th grade cohort will be provided services up until their senior year in high school. It is the same cohort from year to year. If any student student leaves the school district, transfers to another school within the district, or if we have students that come into the district, as long as they are coming in at the time of the same students in the same grade, they can either exit or enter the cohort. But we also have the 7th grade cohort, and we provide services to those students to their first year of undergraduate matriculation. And so these data that you see here are the beginning numbers and beginning students that actually entered our cohort. And you're just able to see that we have a higher student counts and student enrollment at certain schools such as Howard and Rutland, as well as Weaver. And then we see some pretty other consistent numbers with some of our other schools. One of the things that is great about this grant is that it serves all 6th and 7th grade students in that particular cohort, and that includes traditional schools, that includes non-traditional schools, that includes programs, that includes special programs. So as you see here, you see all of our traditional middle schools that the cohort begins, but you also see Elam Alexander Academy, you see Price Educational Center, you see SOAR Academy, as well as VIP Academy. So all students in the district, no matter what school they attend, no matter what program they're in, they are eligible to receive Gear Up services. Again, it's important for us to know who our students are as we're looking at being able to increase student achievement as well as progress and growth, even with our CCRPI and how the state measures how the school district is improving student growth. We want to make sure that we truly are serving all of our students. And so this gives us a snapshot by race and ethnicity, our students that are ultimately in the Gear Up cohort. As we look at our Gear Up milestones baseline data, again, this is baseline. This is where our students begin. And in order for us to be able to truly chart a path whereby we're moving with a sense of urgency, we're capitalizing on quick wins, we're utilizing a school turnaround, district turnaround strategy to be able to support our Gear Up students. This helps us to understand, based on the Georgia milestones, where our students scored as it relates to their achievement level descriptor, which is beginning with sometimes some parents, some families, beginning is a 1, developing is a 2, proficient is a 3, and distinguished is a 4. As you see these data, that there is a quite variability across all of our schools. There are certain schools that have more beginning learners than others. There are certain schools that have higher percentages of students that are scoring proficient and distinguished. Ultimately, as we look at the math milestone achievement data, as well as we look at the ELA milestone achievement data, generally 45% to 50% of our baseline data are students scored in the beginning category, and about 15 to 20% of our students scored within the distinguished and the proficient categories. That really helps us to be able to understand that we clearly cannot have a one-size-fits-all approach as it relates to the implementation of the Gear Up grant, but we have to make sure that we take a differentiated approach. There are certain students that may need remediation. There are some students that may need enrichment. There are some students that may need acceleration. And so again, these data help us to be able to understand where we are, helps us understand who we're serving as it relates to where they begin for their mathematics achievement as well as their ELA achievement. We see some very consistent and similar trends as it relates to our STAR reading data. And we know that our STAR reading data helps us as an internal tool that the school district used to be able to progress monitor and use as a predictive indicator for how our students will ultimately perform on the state standardized test, which is the Georgia milestones. And it is very similar, again, that about 45 to 50% of our baseline students scored in the beginning category, about 15 to 20% scored in the proficient and distinguished category. And it's the same for STAR math. And so these data helps us to, again, make sure that we have a very clear understanding of what the need is. Anytime a school district submits a grant for a federal award, you have to substantiate the need. And we understand the need that our students have. And that need is not just from a deficit thinking perspective, but it's also from a dynamic thinking perspective. We have students that need remediation, so we're going to provide targeted, intense remediation. But we have a significant number of our students that have already demonstrated a need for enrichment and acceleration, that need opportunities for advanced placement and focusing on college readiness and talent development, dual enrollment. And so we're very utilizing these data to ultimately to help us get to a place where we're truly differentiating instructional opportunities for all our students at the school and the building level. Here we see our Gear Up course performance baseline data. One of the things that we do throughout the Gear Up grant period of performance is that we're monitoring how our students are performing in class. We understand that standardized assessment data is only one data point, it's only one indicator. It's not the all, it's not the be all. All of us as parents, as educators, we understand that our students are multifaceted. We serve the whole child. And so we're looking at, again, multiple types of data. Hopefully we're to be able to triangulate the data, to be able to have a full picture of, again, who our students are, what they need, and how do we need to ensure that we're meeting their needs in the school. So we ultimately, we look at the number of students that score in the 0 to 69 grade band. Ultimately, we see that we have about 9% of our students in the baseline year scored in that category, but we also see that ultimately we have about 91% of our students that passed ELA, and we also see what the data looks like. We see even for our students that need additional academic remediation for mathematics, that number, even in that 0 to 69 category, it kind of increased a little bit. We see that there's a greater need for mathematics, and ultimately we know that. We know what the research says. We know even what the trends are. So again, it helps us as we see that clearly our students are performing much better in the class as determined by course performance than what they are on student achievement, on state standardized tests. And so that helps us to know that the experience that students are having in their classes, that they're ultimately meeting those expectations. And so we want to continue to build upon that to be able to make sure that students are able to demonstrate that on those state standardized tests when they take them. We also see the trend continues with science as well as social studies that ultimately, I mean, there's almost this 10% average of the Gear Up cohort that are having difficulties with demonstrating academic performance throughout the school year. As it relates to in their courses, ultimately, we know there are various indicators that can impact that, whether it's attendance and other different types of challenges and barriers that students face. And so that is the beauty of Gear Up. It is to provide supplemental services to be able to meet the needs of our students, such as providing tutoring in the after school, intersession, Saturday school, summer school, being able to provide mentoring as well as wraparound services to be able to remove barriers that go beyond the walls of the school. But ultimately, again, these data help us to be able to understand how our students are doing in their courses. And lastly, this is how our students performed as it relates to their electives. As we move forward, we have to again then look at attendance. We know that attendance is a strong indicator of student engagement in the school experience. We understand that students must be present in order for them to be able to receive the quality instruction that our teachers and our leaders lead every day in our schools. As we seek and kind of as a measurement for the Gear Up grant, our goal is to be able to exceed the state average. Generally, over the past year or so, the state average has been about 83%. The average for the Gear Up cohort is around 93%. And so we are exceeding the state average as it relates to those students that are determined who are not chronically absent. Chronically absent is those students that are missing 10% of the school year or more. So they generally would fall in that 18 or more category. As you see with term 1, that represents the attendance data for the fall semester of the first year of grant implementation. And term 2 represents the spring semester for the second semester of the grant implementation. Even though the Gear Up grant in totality exceeds the state average, we still understand that there are students that are performing in those or that are attending school, particularly in those categories where they're only missing 1 to 3 unexcused absences or only have 4 to 7 unexcused absences. But we then see on the other side of the spectrum that we do have students in the Gear Up cohort that are determined to be chronically absent. And so as it relates to all of the supplemental services for mentoring, support services, truly working collaboratively with the school level teams as well as district level teams to really saturate resources, opportunities, engagement with families to truly be able to remove barriers. And lastly here, I want to be able to review the behavior baseline data. The Gear Up grant really has a strong focus on increasing academic achievement, and clearly we cannot do that if we're not analyzing data data related to how our students are performing on state standardized tests, because we're trying to prepare them for undergraduate matriculation. So how they perform on the milestones is an indicator of how they may perform on the SAT or the ACT, and various support services that we need to provide for that to occur. Clearly, if one of our goals is to be able to promote we want to increase the number of students that are promoted to each grade level, we have to make sure that we're monitoring how our students are performing in the classroom. There is a strong, significant emphasis, even as all of us as parents, families, educators, we know that social emotional learning and making sure that we're supporting the needs of the whole child is very, very important. And so we wanted to be able to highlight the highest number of incidents, particularly these three categories for behavior incidents that occurred within the baseline year. And again, these data here are disaggregated by school, and ultimately it helps us to be able to understand the types of supports, to what degree, as well as for each school, all of the services that we're providing to students, so that number one, we're able to increase students in a positive learning environment at each school, but ultimately being able to improve academic achievement outcomes for students. And so here are the action steps and the recommendations based on our year one baseline data for the grant period of performance for the Gear Up grant. We ultimately want to strengthen academic achievement and grade level promotion. So there are plans to be able to strengthen the collaboration at the school level, with the Gear Up team working closer with the instructional teams as well as the leadership teams, really being able to support collaborative planning to increase tier one instruction at the classroom level. Gear Up has provided significant opportunities for out-of-school time academic supports, but really being able to partner and support what occurs in the traditional school day is a critical area for the Gear Up grant. As you see with strategic priorities 2 and 3, increasing attendance and student engagement, social and emotional learning, really being able to strengthen our multi-tiered systems of supports and that collaboration that occurs at the school level, positive behavior interventions and supports, and continuing to ensure that our students have access to school-based mental health opportunities that the district is providing for students. As you all see with strategic priority 4 and strategic priority 5, college readiness and talent development is a significant piece of the puzzle here for Gear Up, because ultimately we want not just for our students to graduate, but we also want them to have a plan, and that includes not just 4-year institutions, but also 2-year institutions. Dr. Washington will talk more about dual enrollment and how our students have opportunities not just for traditional 4-year institutions, but also occupational training as it relates to pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs. Therefore, it's important for us to ensure that our families understand all of the opportunities that we have, but also being able to support our special populations, those students that are experiencing homelessness, our foster youth, students that are English language learner students, our students with disabilities, really making sure that we're providing services consistently and equitably, that all students are able to participate in our program. And lastly, as you see, we have a very robust process for how we're collecting data, managing data, analyzing, visualizing, and reporting these data. But we always know that that has to be a very strong component of how we drive continuous improvement. And our goal is to continue to strengthen those data decision-making processes, so ultimately we can continue to provide services that is in alignment with the superintendent's strategic plan and to contribute to the overall district's effectiveness.
Thank you, Mr. Pless, for providing a deep understanding of who our students are, where they are, and what is required for the district to meet their educational needs. Gear Up programming efforts are predicated on the student achievement data, grant requirements, as well as direct recommendations from the external evaluator. Supporting that premise, one of Gear Up's primary academic support strategies has been the implementation of after-school tutoring as well as Saturday school. Gear Up community partners play a vital role in helping to prepare students for success beyond high school. Each partner contributes specialized expertise that enhances the student experience. Mid-South Community Federal Credit Union and United Way provide financial literacy education, with United Way also offering mentoring and student workshops. Central Georgia Technical College supports dual enrollment and summer learning experiences that expose our students to college-level work and career pathways. Hutchins College and Career Academy expands students' access to CTAE programs while helping them to develop workforce readiness skills. Graduation advisors play a critical role in supporting the overall well-being of Europe students. In addition to monitoring academic progress, they actively participate on school attendance teams to identify and address barriers contributing to chronic absenteeism. Financial literacy is also an important component of college and career readiness. Through Europe's partnership with Mid-South Community Federal Credit Union, students participated in engaging workshops that introduce foundational financial concepts. Strong relationships are at the heart of student success. Through the mentoring services provided by communities and schools, students receive individualized encouragement, guidance, and accountability that extend beyond the classroom. One of the most impactful aspects of Gear Up is providing students with opportunities to experience learning beyond the classroom. Throughout the year, students visited college campuses, including Georgia State University, Georgia Tech, and institutions within the Atlanta University Center, where they explored academic programs, campus life, and post-secondary opportunities. This summer, Gear Up provided students with meaningful summer learning experiences that strengthened academic readiness while expanding their exposure to college and career opportunities through the Passport Summer Learning Experience on the campus of Middle Georgia State University. Preparing students for the future extends beyond academics. Through Gear Up's partnership with United Way, students participated in engaging financial literacy experience that helped them understand budgeting, saving, responsible credit use, and long-term financial planning. Highlighting the intentional supports available to all Bibb County students, Dr. Cassandra Washington, Executive Director of CTAE, will expound on maximizing the effort of connecting students to college and career pathways. Dr. Washington.
Good evening. The Gear Up class of 2030 and 2031 will have the opportunity to walk across two graduation stages. Through this innovative approach, the strong partnership with Central Georgia Technical College, students can work toward earning their high school diploma while simultaneously earning certificate, diploma, or an associate degree. Implementing the accelerated career diploma path gives eligible high school students an exciting opportunity to fast-track their education by earning both high school diploma, associate degree, or technical diploma. Additionally, we will utilize the Find Your Grind platform, which allows students to develop greater self-awareness and career readiness, allowing students to understand the difference between their interests and aptitude. Adding the accelerated career pathway component will reduce the high school graduation credit requirements for students who know exactly what they want to do after graduations. Students will be required to take the following high school courses underneath the accelerated career diploma. It's 2 English courses, including the end of course assessment, 2 mathematics courses, 2 science courses, 2 social study courses, and 1 health fitness course. This allows students to be able to graduate earlier and walk across 2 stages.
Thank you, Dr. Washington. And so as we close here, our next steps for the Gear Up grant includes 4 critical components. We want to continue to collaborate and expand the opportunities that are available for our students by increasing our community and institutional partners. We understand that this is a 7-year grant, and so ultimately we are in it for the long haul, and our students are going to have various needs across the grant cycle. And so we want to continue to increase those collaborations. We want to make sure that we can truly expose our students to various opportunities through experiential learning, field trips, learning experiences. We understand that if we can increase our students' schema and their prior knowledge, if we can increase motivation and self-efficacy, their overall self-concept, if we can begin to help them see themselves in the roles in which they seek to go in, such as industry, different types of job shadowing opportunities, college tours, that overall will be able to truly build upon a foundation for success. But we also want to engage and we want to support For example, in this case, well, this year will be the first year that the Gear Up grant has a high school cohort. And so as students begin to move into athletics and various career technical student organizations and other types of extracurricular activities, that we're truly supporting our students across all programs and all departmental areas within our school district, and ultimately making sure that we're laser focused on our first ninth grade cohort. All of us understand that transition grades are very critical for all of our students, but definitely the ninth grade. And so ultimately, we will continue to provide the intentional support, and as noted here, build relationships, and ultimately prepare students for long-term success. And we are able to take any questions that you all have.
Thank you so much for your very, very well-done presentation. Do we have any questions? Yes, Dr. Fickling.
Thank you, Mr. Pless, for that very stellar presentation. At one point, I wanted to just tell you, breathe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And to Dr. Muff and to Dr. Washington for the portions of the presentation that you all gave to us as well. I am the person who asked for this presentation. And in my asking, there was nothing about Tao and your success that I had any doubt about, because I've noticed your presentations in the past and you've always done a very good job. But for somebody to come and ask the board for $171 and don't give us nothing, I thought was out of kilter. And even though some people want to know why did we want to know what the report was, I thought that was out of kilter as well, because the board needs to know anything that's going on that involves taxpayers' money, whether it's buying a tire and whether it's a Goodyear tire or a Firestone tire. If the board wants to know that, I think we have a right to know that. The people put us down here. So that is why I asked for this report. I really appreciate it. I think that we have been thoroughly imbued with the knowledge of the Gear Up program. I think the Gear Up program started about 2011, if I remember correctly.
Yes, the school district has had a
Yeah,
prior
yeah,
Gear Up
in
grant award.
2011, I think that's when we first got it. And of course, there are some things that have improved because of the Gear Up program is in place. And one of the things you said in your presentation about that the students are performing better in the class than they are on state tests. That stood out to me because I did not see that in the very voluminous document that we received first, more than 300 pages to go through. I did not see any indication of that. And so what my question is now is how do you measure that gap? For instance, we've just had the milestone test to come back. And if they're doing better in classroom work than they are on state tests, then what is in place to measure that gap so that we can begin to decrease it?
Well, what I would say is I think Dr. Sims have shared about the nature of standardized assessments, and that ultimately it's a one-time type of ordeal. I think ultimately the experience that our students have throughout the entire school year, I think is based on the totality of the evidence. I think that the Bibb County School District has dynamic teachers that have rigor in their classes. They've built those relationships. The instruction is differentiated. The assessments are differentiated. And so I do believe that the course performance that we were able to see for the Gear Up program ultimately helps us to understand the totality of what our students have done. I think that standardized assessments are very important. We understand that for the most part, it's required, or it's sometimes a part of the college application process. Students have to take the SAT or the ACT, or if they're looking for military enlistment with the ASVAB. Students being able to earn stackable industry credentials, they have to take an assessment. And so I do believe it's important. I think ultimately we, as it relates to Gear Up, I think it's two-pronged. One being able to provide our students with opportunities to increase skill, whether we're talking about executive functioning, whether we're talking about metacognition, and as well as helping our students to understand the content that is on the test. So there are certain skills that you kind of have to be able to get through an assessment, depending on how long it is, the types of questions, whether they're selected responses, constructed responses. It can be very just a whole mashup of various types of things. But ultimately, I think for us, making sure that we are investing in developing their skill to master assessments, and then also making sure that the content that we're teaching our students, the content, definitely the alignment is there with on the Georgia milestones. But we know that the SAT and the ACT are different assessments, even for some of our students that take the AccuPlacer to begin to take some dual enrollment in high school. And so to answer your question, Dr. Ficklin, I think it's two-pronged. One, making sure that we're building capacity as it relates to skill, that our students understand what is required to take an assessment, similar like for teachers that have to take the GACE and all of these different things. And then also making sure that we're very intentional about ensuring they have the support they need to demonstrate mastery as it relates to content.
Thank you for that, analogy of, and certainly about, the state tests are just a one-time deal. And as you pointed out, Dr. Sims did say that sometimes in the past. But I don't have to be told that, but I was in the classroom for 39 years. And so I know what goes on in the classroom. And so what my question was, and you came close to answering it,
Okay.
was what measure do you have in place to measure the gap?
To measure the gap
The
in
gap,
state.
if they're doing the classroom work right here and the milestone is right here, how do you measure this right here?
Well, I think that, I mean, your question really goes, I think when we're talking about teaching and learning, as it relates to Gear Up, I think one of the things that we have to focus on again is to strengthen the collaboration between what occurs at the building level as well as the district level.
Excuse me, is there anything in place now that you all measure the gap with?
I think as a field in education, we understand the way to measure the gap. We look at whether or not the assessments at the building level are
If I were to
balanced.
ask you, what is the gap between what was done on the milestone and what was done in the classroom? Do you have that data available?
I don't think that data exists. I mean, I can go back and of course reflect on your question, but just as a profession in education, I think that I can't recall right now a measure that any school district has as it relates to how students are performing in class versus how students are performing on the Georgia milestones or the state standardized test.
And so that philosophy about it's just a one-time test is out of the window because that one-time test is what governs our school system.
I think it's very important. Ultimately, we do look at whether or not assessments are balanced. We look at whether or not is the teaching and learning that's occurring in the classroom academically challenging? Is it aligned to the standard? There are multiple types of practices that can be put in that are already in place to achieve that. But we can definitely.
I don't want to go on. I don't want to
Okay.
be cutting you off either. But the test is what measures what's happened in the classroom. And that's why they give the test. And we can't not stand back and say, well, they did good in the classroom. They just didn't do so good on the test. The test is the measurement tool that's in place to help us determine what's going on in the classroom. So that was my question. And the other thing, I have another question about the attendance situation. Is there anything in place to close the attendance gap that we are experiencing?
Ultimately, the Gear Up, they do provide programming to be able to support attendance. So I know that the Gear Up advisors are part of the attendance teams at the school level. And we have engaged in a lot of practices, really trying to get to a root cause analysis on why some of our students may have barriers to attendance.
Is there a
Definitely.
person hired by the Gear Up program to go out and look at these situations so they'll know that little Johnny didn't come to school because his daddy was drunk? and that's keeping him out of school. Is there someone in place that the Gear Up program provides that level of data collection so that we will know what are some of these reasons that kids are not coming to school?
So number one, we are definitely, as we can see, measuring the students that are attending school. We've been able to identify various barriers. To what degree? Because oftentimes, working with students, we may not know why they didn't, but we do know that some of them are having housing instability, food insecurity, transportation issues, family instability.
But
Those different
is
types of
there any
things.
data being collected on that? That's all my question is.
As it relates to the specific reason, no, sir.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
And thank you, Madam Chairperson. I have no other questions on this, and I do want to once again congratulate them on doing such a thorough job in making this presentation. And I think that we always need to get presentation when we're spending money, especially when it goes above $150,000, because we don't know what that presentation would have been under that. But at the same time, I would like to move that we pass this motion.
You don't have, this is still the presentation, Dr. Ficklin. We haven't gotten to the action item yet.
I understand that, but I was just gonna make the motion now.
Okay, all right, well, we'll remember that motion. Yes, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yes, ma'am.
And my question is related to attendance. Baseline data on page 19.
Yes, ma'am.
I was a little confused with the unexcused absences for term 1 and the unexcused absences term 2. Now, are we talking about 2 different years, or are we comparing the 2? What are we talking about?
Yes, ma'am. So term 1 is the fall semester, generally August through December, and term 2 is a spring semester, January to May.
So according to the data, it looks like the attendance, there was a big difference. I don't know, huge difference, but it looked like we have a greater attendance problem in term 2 than we did in term 1. I would expect it to go down, be a decrease, but instead of a decrease, like I'm seeing an increase. Is that correct?
It is, and I think it's one thing of just the nature of the school year. We're getting deeper into the school year, and so now we have more days. Ultimately, we know that there are a cohort, a group of students within the Gear Up cohort that have attendance needs, and ultimately understanding the baseline data from where we are. To your point, there has to be some significant supplemental services and interventions and supports in place, because we clearly see what the trend data tells us, that if it's not addressed in semester 1, that is going to continue to increase in semester 2. And so with that understanding in mind, Gear Up has provided programming to be able to support students as it relates to attendance. Again, they have graduation advisors at all of the schools that's working with attendance teams, that's working with families to be able to remove those barriers to increase attendance opportunities for students. And so ultimately, your assessment is correct, and we are definitely looking at all of that, and that helps to serve how we proceed with providing services and to students.
And
Yes,
one more
ma'am.
question. Are we expecting to see a term 3? And if we are expecting to see a term 3, are we expecting to see a decline in the absentees?
Well, that will be the goal, is that when it's time to evaluate year 2 for the Gear Up grant, that ultimately there has been a decline in the number of students that are in that unexcused category. Definitely for the students that are in the 18 or more, because they're determined to be chronically absent. But yes, ma'am, definitely there's going to be some comparative analysis as it relates to the baseline data as well as the implementation for the current year.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Woodford's first, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Pless, Dr. Mudd, and Dr. Washington. As I look out across our audience, our beautiful audience of educators, I have to wonder, is there any interest among our students in going into career? And if we're referred to.
Well, I know that we do have opportunities for teaching as a profession, to be able to prepare students to be able to go into the education career field. I know that Hutchins College and Career Academy does a great job with that. And so definitely as we have students that are entering the ninth grade cohort, ensuring that our students understand the opportunities that are at Hutchins as well as dual enrollment here within our city and just across the state of Georgia, dual enrollment opportunities to help prepare them, whereby in this case, if it's in education or in any type of way in the helping profession.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
President Moore.
Say something?
Excuse me.
I just wanted to add that teaching as a pathway is available not only to our Gear Up students, but to our 21st century after school as well. So it's expanded across both grants.
Mr. Morton.
I feel for you because the way I've been listening, it sounds like you're the program administrator and not the program evaluator. And ultimately, this item is about renewing your services as a program evaluator, correct?
That's correct. Yes. Well, at least this presentation is to give an overview of the grant the district will decide on an action item.
Well, you've been asked most of the questions, so real simple.
Okay.
I know part of what your obligation is are mandated reporting to the federal government. When does that happen, and what do you send them?
Yes, sir. So ultimately, the United States Department of Education, as we know, requires an evaluator. The Department of Education requires that there is an annual performance report that is submitted to the United States Department of Education. Oftentimes, that is scheduled in the spring semester. As it relates to our reporting years, the United States Department of Education always reports a year behind. And so ultimately, the next reporting period will open up in the spring semester. We haven't been notified of when that will be, but generally it's around March, April. But it's been in April, it's been in May in the past, and we will prepare that annual performance report for the United States Department of Education and have that submitted.
Okay, well, y'all got approved for this in September of 2024. So when was the last time we submitted that kind of reporting?
The last report was submitted this year in the spring. I want to say maybe March or April, somewhere
Oh, okay,
around there.
Okay, so we're
Yes, sir.
on time with all that stuff.
Definitely, yes, sir. And
All
that
right.
is
Board members,
con-
I'm being asked
I'm sorry.
for everybody to speak into the microphone. Everybody can't hear you. Thank you.
And those reports are required for the district to continue to receive funding, and so the district is in compliance with all federal reporting.
All right, thank you. That's what I needed to know.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any more questions? All right, we've had a recommendation. Do we have a second? Oh,
Second.
well, no, hold on,
We had,
hold
the
on.
recommendation has not been presented yet.
It's not been presented yet. You are so right. Now we have the second part, the action item.
Yes, ma'am.
Of IS1, and Dr. Muff will share that with us.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The U.S. Department of Education requires Gear Up grant recipients to retain an external evaluator to collect, analyze, and report on output and outcome data to verify the project is accomplishing the proposed objectives. The Procurement Department issued an RFP for the external evaluator as required upon the grant award. RFP 24-039 was issued on May 9th, 2024, and a pre-bid meeting was held on May 20th, 2024. The RFP closed on May the 30th, 2024. The evaluation was completed, and Towering Your Success LLC was named as the potential awardee with a total of 871.67 points out of 1,000 points. This is the second renewal of the original bid. It is recommended that the Bibb County Board of Education approves the renewal of Towering Your Success LLC to serve as program evaluator for the approved FY27 Gear Up grant at the rate of $171,000.
Okay, we have a recommendation.
Okay, I like to
Yes, sir.
move for approval and also for this team to convey my thanks to Mr. Jared Moore for such a thorough report.
Very good. Thank you.
Second.
Yes, yes. So we have a second from Dr. Woodford. You've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously, and we'll go to consent agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're not gonna have a consent agenda tonight. It will just be passing the agenda. That's right. Okay, now we have IS2, what everybody's here for tonight. And this is our school consolidation presentation from HPM. And Dr. Katika Levitt is gonna sort of start from the beginning for us.
Okay. Good evening, President Morton, members of the Board of Education, Dr. Sims, and members of our community. This evening, we come together with a shared responsibility and a shared commitment to make thoughtful decisions that strengthen the future of our students, our schools, and the Bibb County School District. Tonight's discussion on school consolidation is not only about facilities, attendance zones, or operational efficiency. It is about ensuring that our resources are aligned in ways that expand opportunities, support strong learning environments, and position every student for success. Now, this work has been deliberate, data-informed, and sequenced over time. During the 24-25 school year, the district engaged with Towering Your Success to begin an initial exploration of school consolidation. As you may recall, that work resulted in recommendations to further evaluate rezoning and redistricting options, as well as opportunities to strengthen operational efficiency across the central office. During the 25-26 school year, the district advanced that work through rezoning and redistricting studies conducted by HPM, our presenter for today. Those studies included a review of enrollment trends, school capacity, utilization, feeder patterns, planning units, and other operational considerations. In collaboration with this administration, HPM subsequently provided the board with recommendations informed by that analysis. Now, at the conclusion of the 25-26 school year and in alignment with the FY27 budget adoption, the board directed our administration to return with school consolidation recommendations, identifying a minimum of 2 schools for consideration. Tonight represents the culmination of that work. HPM will present an overview of the analysis completed to date, summarize the primary factors that were considered, and provide recommendation for the board's review and consideration. These recommendations are aligned with the board's direction and reflect the district's responsibility to make decisions that are student-centered, fiscally responsible, and operationally sustainable. Now, as we begin, we recognize that decisions involving school consolidation are significant and deeply meaningful to our community, our students, our families, staff, alumni. For this reason, this process has included and will continue to focus on data review, transparency, community input, and ongoing board discussion. Ultimately, this work is about ensuring that every decision we make strengthens opportunities for students and positions our schools to better serve their academic, social, and long-term success. With that focus at the center, I will now turn the presentation over to HPM to review the work completed to date and recommendations presented to the board for review. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, I'm Scott Leopold with HPM. I've been here a couple times talking specifically about boundaries. I just kind of want to hit a couple points that Dr. Levitt alluded to, but just try to hit them again. Boundary changes, again, were a recommendation of that 24-25 process, and our team was specifically engaged for that purpose. We have developed a set of boundary options while noting that boundary changes alone would not resolve the district's underutilization. And so this is conversations that we'd had last year. We shared some options with the community back in April, and the feedback that we received in that, which I'll talk about tonight, was pointed towards consolidation as a more sustainable path. And again, at the same time, the district's financial outlook has continued to tighten, and a budget was adopted. It was contingent upon the closure of 2 schools. And so tonight, we have 3 consolidation options for discussion. No decisions have been made. We're purely sharing these with the board to start that conversation up again. So this is review because we haven't shown the results of the boundary work that we did in the fall publicly. And so initially back in the spring, we shared 3 different options. And just if you recall, one of them was district-wide attendance zone changes that balance utilization. We tried to get some of the schools that were under 450 above 450. We tried to clean up feeder patterns the best that we could. And that was option 1. And then option 2A and 2B both kind of looked at the idea of converting Williams Elementary to an early learning center to concentrate pre-K offerings in that building. And we had 2 different variations of that. One of them redistributed the Williams students between Hartley and Ingram, And then one of those options just took all those Williams students and put them into Ingram. And so that's kind of the culmination of the work that we did up until the spring in April. We've collected survey responses. We had 331 surveys collected since April 16th. We had about 50 attendees at that meeting here. Nearly 30% of our overall online response that we had was affiliated with Skyview. This is just the general sentiment. Option one was generally favored, the best of the three that were proposed, but many respondents felt that option one, again, was a short-term fix rather than a long-term solution. The idea of centralizing pre-K at Williams receives significant opposition across all stakeholder groups. Everybody liked the idea of having pre-K, in their elementary school as much as possible. Transportation, childcare, logistics, splitting siblings between schools are the most common concerns. And again, stakeholders strongly preferred keeping pre-K programs within the neighborhood elementary schools. And so that's kind of where we left off in the spring. And so this kind of closes the book on that. Kind of in light of all the budget issues, changes that we've seen around the state, I think it's important to kind of talk about just overall long-term facility strategy. So due to the overall funding allocation of dollars to elementary schools, it is a benefit to students to increase school size to above 600 students. And this does not impact class size. This is purely number of students that we have in the building. The class size is a function of how many teachers are assigned to that, and those are assigned during the allotment process. What this really does is it allows more dollars to be allocated to each elementary school per student. This can't happen immediately. We're not asking, or should any district in the state be asked to just immediately go to these larger facilities, but we need to have a plan that gets there over time. And so given that we have numerous excess capacity, numerous small schools, we should prioritize capital investments in schools that have capacities above 600 or projects that could increase this capacity in smaller schools. And again, this is just a general concept that we wanted to just share because this is something that districts across the state are kind of dealing with. And so this is just kind of the point on the horizon we want to go to. The upcoming facility condition assessments or study will help inform and prioritize this strategy. And so kind of our overall point of that horizon is, again, let's try to get these elementary schools up around that 600 number. And we'll show, the benefits of doing that in the future slides. So this is a slide that we've been using throughout this process. This kind of shows what you get in a facility that is less than 450 students. And this just kind of shows where the funding would come from. And so we show here in yellow what would be state funded in a facility that has less than 450 students. Your state funding would basically cover a principal and half of a nurse. And all those other positions, half of an AP, a guidance counselor, media specialist, art teacher, music teacher, PE, those would all have to be locally funded. And once we get above 450 and 600 is even better, you get, half of an AP, you get a full guidance counselor, you get a full media specialist, and then you get an art teacher, music teacher, PE, you pick one of those three. And so this is just, again, to illustrate, what that impact of those higher enrollment numbers mean from a funding standpoint. Very simply, the higher the enrollment that we have in a facility, generally the cost per student goes down. And so what this slide shows, this is new, this is not review, this is data that we pulled from the BOE, state BOE or DOE. And this shows cost per student cross-referenced with enrollment. And so the higher the dot is on the chart, the higher the cost per student. The further right on the chart, the higher the enrollment of the school. And so the big takeaways of this is we've kind of plotted here, your elementary schools are in yellow, and then you can see kind of your peer districts across the state in those different colors. Bibb County spends slightly more per student than average compared to peer systems across the state. Dougherty County, or the Albany area, spends consistently more per student, and they're going to be in the green, those green dots that you see on there. And Carroll County, or Carrollton, spends consistently less per student, and they're going to be in the those orange dots. And then if we focus just on your schools, this kind of plots on here, what those, which schools those are, what that looks like. You can see that there is a correlation between decreasing cost per student and increasing enrollment. If enrollment is above 550, cost per student is typically below 15,000. And so this, again, we're trying to just illustrate that correlation, that causality between that enrollment and that cost per student. So now getting into these options for consideration, I want to just talk briefly about the factors that we considered. We looked at student impact, academic and programmatic opportunities. We looked at feeder pattern alignment. We looked at walkability and transportation impacts. That's one that I'm going to kind of lean into because conversations that we've had with the board in the past have talked about, well, if we consolidate, then we're just going to increase our transportation costs. And so we were very methodical about that. We wanted to consider that as we brought these options to you. We also looked at community considerations, so community input and stakeholder feedback, future community growth and development. We also looked at the facilities. We looked at the facility condition, what capital projects are coming up, what the capacity and utilizations of the schools are, and again, those Georgia DOE education school size targets. We also looked at, again, that financial stability, operational efficiency and financial sustainability. We looked at the per pupil expenditures that we just talked about, and then again, enrollment trends and long-term projections. So this is just a real quick overview. So option one is that we would consolidate both Carter and Hartley. Option two would be just Carter. And then this independent option, this can really go with anything, or it could be the only one, which is the VIP Academy closes. And so here's kind of the rationale and the reasons why it's being considered in these options. Again, I want to reiterate, these are options, not recommendations. But Carter is a 100% transportation eligible school, so there is no walk zone at Carter. Buses would simply take students to a different school. We would not need any additional drivers or buses. From a facility standpoint, it is also in need of a renovation. Those dollars could be reallocated to a more suitable facility. Hartley, the rationale at Hartley, the enrollment was less than 450, and it's in very close proximity to the recently renovated Ingram. And then looking at VIP, it was originally launched as a temporary online program during the pandemic, and declining enrollment has resulted in increased cost per student over time. And so that's kind of the high level of this. So looking into the details of option one, and so these are the maps that would show potential boundaries associated with these options. I'm going to go to this one. I think it's easier to read. And we'll have an online school locator so that you can type in your address and it would tell you what your assignment would be. But this basically shows us taking Carter and splitting it up among 3 different schools. We'd have some students that would go from Carter to Heritage. Some students would go from Carter to Springdale. We'd have some students going from Carter to Union. We've got some students going from Carter to J.R. Lewis. And then to kind of make room in some of those facilities, we have some students going from J.R. Lewis to Williams. And then you can see we've got Hartley kind of splitting up between Ingram and Southfield. And so this is the corresponding middle school changes with this. And so this, this really tries to align those feeder patterns. So we have areas of Carter that would move to Heritage and Union. They also move to Weaver for middle school to keep those feeder patterns consistent. High school boundaries, kind of more of the same with one additional change. Again, that same areas of Carter that moved to Heritage and Union would also move to Westside High School, again, to keep those feeder patterns consistent. And then we do have an area of Ingram that feeds to Central, and that would move to Southwest to improve those feeder patterns. That was some of the feedback that we got out of that initial boundary process back in the spring. And so this kind of shows our overall data summary of this. It reduces the number of zoned elementary schools below 450 from 9 down to 6. Our district-wide utilization at elementary schools would increase from about 75%, I think it would go up to 83, almost 84%. Howard Middle School would no longer be over 100% utilized. We would have improved feeder patterns. We would have no small feeder pattern splits. I think currently we have J.R. Lewis splitting 3 ways. We fixed that. And then all middle schools would feed 100% to one high school. And so we get to 1-to-1 with the high schools. The challenges that we had with this, students impacted, we have 878 elementary school students, 83 middle school, and 241 high school students. We do increase utilization at Springdale up to 100%. But when we look at this data, if you look at Springdale, it does have 105 students coming in, transferring in from out of its zone. And those are numbers that we can change over time. So I'm not worried about that number being at 100%. Utilization at Central High School decreases slightly to allow for that 100% feeder from middle school to high school. So those are kind of the overall benefits and challenges of this. And this shows our feeder pattern. Again, the way these charts look, this is review again, but elementary schools are listed, on the left chart down the side, and then the middle schools that they feed into are across the top. And it shows what those percentages are. And so we don't have any three-way splits from elementary to middle school. And when you get into middle school, you are in your boundary cohort going into high school. And so here's option two. Option two just closes Carter. And so it would be very similar changes. We'd have students splitting up between Heritage, Springdale, Union, and J.R. Lewis. And then we'd have that little area that would go from J.R. Lewis to Williams to make some more room for the Carter students in J.R. Lewis. Again, very similar changes at the middle school level, identical. And same with the high school, same changes. We just don't make those changes that would consolidate Hartley in option two. And so looking at this, it reduces the number of zoned elementary schools below 450 from 9 down to 8. Our district-wide utilization goes up to 81%. If you recall, it was almost 84% in option one. Again, we accomplish the same thing with the no small feeder splits. We get all of our middle schools, again, feeding 100% into each high school. We impact fewer students than option one, 513 elementary students, 83 middle school, 241 high school. And again, we still had that same utilization concern at Springdale, but again, we think we can control the transfers at that school to keep that enrollment well below 100% capacity. Only one additional school we would have above, we would have above 450 would be Union in this scenario. Union would be the school that would go from below 450 up to above 450. And then again, we would continue to have lower utilization at Central to get that 100% feeder. And again, very similar. This is our feeder pattern summary. Okay, so as far as the independent option, this is the discontinuation of the VIP program. This is independent of option 1 or 2. It can be combined, but options 1 or 2 are not at all dependent on VIP closing. Because this program draws students district-wide, discontinuing the program does not have a large impact should those students go back to their attendance boundary school. And so you can see, by middle school, by high school, how many students could potentially go back. And those aren't any numbers that are going to cause utilization concerns at any of those schools. And so the rationale with this one, sustains a high quality virtual learning option through a more efficient delivery model within school academies, ISA, aligns resources with student enrollment long-term and program stability, expands student access to academic, extracurricular, and support services, reduces the duplication of virtual services, and improves operational efficiency, strengthens district-wide coordination of virtual learning opportunities, ensures responsible stewardship of district resources, aligns programming with the district's strategic and operational priorities, and creates a scalable model that can better serve future student needs. And so this is a slide that kind of summarizes all of these things that we've been talking about all together on one slide. We've kind of looked at it from the human resources, the facilities, the teaching and learning, transportation, points of view we've talked about, and then we kind of summarize it in total cost avoidance. And so if we look at just option one, and so again, option one was consolidating both Carter and Hartley. It reduces staffing and operational costs approximately $2 to $3 million per year by eliminating administrative and support staff roles. And so when we talk about that, we're talking about, a secretarial position, principal position, could be some custodial. The teachers go with the students. And so, those teachers would be reallotted through the allotment process to other facilities, where those students end up. From a facilities point of view, This avoids a renovation at Carter, which I think was estimated at about 10 million, and that's on the capital side. And then when we look at teaching and learning, we would have increased enrollment at Heritage, Ingram, J.R. Lewis, Southfield, Springdale, Union, and Williams, which would again help us, improve opportunities and reduce that cost per student. When we talk about transportation, closing Carter really has a negligible impact on the transportation costs. We would not need any additional drivers or buses. Those buses would just be reallocated to different schools. Closing Hartley may result in 5 additional routes needed, which we estimated around $50,000 per year per route. And so when we kind of add all of that up, so we have the operational savings from the staffing, in that top box, and then we take away the increased transportation costs. We're looking at kind of a net of 1.75 to 2.75 annually, including that increased transportation cost. And so that's worked into that equation. And then we have that capital cost avoidance, which would be a one-time cost avoidance of 10 million. And so that's an option 1. Option 2, very similar, but our operational savings would be about 1 to 1.5 million by just consolidating Carter. Again, with those administrative and support staff roles, it does save the renovation of Carter. We would have increased enrollment at Heritage, J.R. Lewis, Springdale, Union, and Williams. Closing Carter would have a negligible impact on transportation costs. Again, it's a 100% transportation eligible school. And so our total cost avoidance would be about $1 million to $1.5 million annually, and then that 10 million one time. And then if we look at the VIP option, we'd have reduction of secondary school administration, approximately 350 to 500,000 per year in savings. It would open up space at the Martin Whitley complex. We'd have increased enrollment at middle school and high schools district-wide because those students would go back or they go into some of the program perhaps. Curriculum savings, Edgenuity, that program, there'd be a savings of about $450,000 there. Transportation, again, due to the low number of students distributed across several schools, it's unlikely that any additional transportation routes would be needed. We think it can be absorbed within the current configuration. And so the total cost avoidance for VIP would be between $800,000 and $950,000 a year. So for next steps, public engagement opportunities will be provided prior to any board action on consolidation and boundary change recommendations. A community survey, including a school locator, will be launched to collect input on proposed consolidation and boundary changes. And we'll have those facility condition assessments will be completed for all the schools in those proposed scenarios. And that contract is in process right now. And so with that, Dr. Lovett, did you want to add anything else?
That's it.
Yep.
Okay, so that concludes our presentation at this time. We are happy to take your questions. Thank you.
All right, questions? Ms. Johnson?
Thank you for your presentation. And we did hear some different things, but those different things didn't sit well with me. I just want to know. I just want to know how much money are we paying for you to bring this kind of information to us?
Thank you for your feedback, Ms. Johnson. I'd have to get that number to you. I don't want to try and quote it off of my head, but we did bring an action in front of the board to get a vendor brought on board to help us in doing this study. Again, I went back to 24-25 where we did take a little bit of a different route. We were asked to do rezoning, redistricting, and that's where we started. Other than giving the direction of the board to look at school consolidation, that is what we had initially committed to. That's where the initial investment was, if you will. And again, we can take that question and get that exact dollar amount to you. I don't have it off of my head.
I know that would probably help the budget if we know how much money we're spending for these kind of reports.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my other question is the long-term effect on school size. Now, the state's minimum is 450, but you're recommending 600. I just wonder, have any of you all ever tried to operate a elementary school with 600 students in it? I have.
And again, thank you for your feedback. I don't know if that question was directed at me or HPM. I can say
Anybody
that
want to take
I can say that I absolutely have, and
You
in
have.
fact, even
I have
larger
too,
schools.
it
So I
wasn't a good
understand
idea.
it's not the most ideal situation.
So for the presentation. So again, what I want to hear is following up on Dr. Fecklin. What were the factors that were used to evaluate?
Hold on, if I can go back to that slide.
Page 11.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for that question. Let me walk you through the actual factors. I know that when we've done a similar study back in 24-25, we created a rubric for you to look at where we had kind of scored some things. We used a very similar process. The factors that are listed here are the factors that in fact were looked at. Starting first with the academic and programmatic opportunities available in each school. And I want you to know, just for everybody to hear this in the room, we went through this process and looked at every school, right? And so while the options that are put in front of you are culminated with a couple of schools, we looked at every single school and went through all of these factors. So looking at things such as what's listed here, the academics and the programs that are available. The feeder pattern, one of the things that you heard our consultant here talk about was the feeder pattern alignment. We have some schools that are split or that feed into multiple middles or different high schools and things of that nature. So we wanted to make sure we looked at those pieces as well. We also looked at walkability and transportation. Again, being very mindful of the fact that there are some schools where there are heavy walk zones, right? They are true neighborhood schools. 80% or so or more walk to those schools, making sure we're looking at those pieces as well. We also, of course, had community input when we did the other, the rezoning and redistricting. We had an opportunity to hear from the community. And those things also asked about, what are some of your preferences? We heard from the community things like, we want to preserve our neighborhood schools. We're not interested in models that are going to, for instance, the Williams piece that was brought up. So those were some stakeholder feedback in addition to the town halls and things of that nature. We also looked at future community growth. And that is the work that we've done with it's slipping my brain, but the organization here that gives us the information about future growth. Well, we've talked about before, like apartments that are coming or housing that's coming to a neighborhood. You've heard us mention that piece as well. Of course, facility condition, that piece is important. The facility condition piece, I would say, I know you mentioned that the walkability was one factor around Carter, the other being the facility condition. The facility condition looked at things such as, when was the last renovation? What does the HVAC look like? What are the maintenance needs associated with a particular building? So that was the facility condition piece. And again, we looked at that across the district. Of course, you've heard us talk about capacity and utilization. Those are the numbers where we say, for instance, a school can hold 700. We have 500 in a school. That's the utilization number. You've heard that. You all have heard a lot about these school size targets, and so you've heard that information. And then finally looking at the financial sustainability for schools. What is the operational efficiency? How much are we spending, again, to maintain said school? What are the per pupil expenditures? What does the enrollment look like over time? And the long-term projections. And again, these factors were applied to every single school in the district in coming up with the options that were shared with you today.
Thank you for that answer. And which other schools received similar scores to the ones that are being presented today?
So I will tell you, there were several schools that we looked at. These were the ones, once we kind of went through everything, that rose to the top. Because again, if you recall, the board asked us to bring 2 schools, and so we brought 2. We didn't bring 5, for instance, right? There were other schools that we could also take a look at if we wanted to consider more schools. We felt like in looking at all of the considerations in front of us, these had the higher factors in terms of things like, again, that walkability. Again, we heard from the community, we want to keep our neighborhood schools. That was a major piece. We also, again, looked at things such as that facility condition and utilization, and those were the big pieces. I would say the HVAC and things of that nature were really huge in our conversation, because we have some schools that need some major investment to keep those things running throughout the year, and Carter being one of them in terms of the maintenance and operational costs. Pretty high.
And then what was the cost of Carter per student as compared to some of the other schools?
I can tell you what it was estimated at. And again, I want to also just put in context for everyone here. The factors are not a singular factor. I know we talked about the two that we looked at that kind of helped this one push it over the edge, but it's a combination of all the factors. You'll see here an estimated cost. I can't 100% see it. I think it's about $14,000 when it relates to Carter in terms of the cost per student. So it's not one of our particularly higher cost schools. We have some others where the costs are higher. But again, the cost, again, being on some of the operational sides for this one was some of the consideration.
Okay. And all right. Now, in terms of this proposal, what we're gathering is that it would only solve about 1/3 of the issue of schools that are below or above, above 450 in population. So it would go from what, 9 to 6?
Potentially.
And yeah, I just don't see how that improves the situation on a long term. Heading over to VIP. Can I keep going, or do you want me to?
I think
Somebody else wanna
I
talk?
think we're all going to have questions.
Okay. VIP.
Yes.
All right. What virtual learning experience would be available to middle school students in the event of
Yes.
what
Okay.
would be available?
Yes, and I'm going to actually invite up my teaching and learning friends to talk a little more specifically about the VIP piece. I know that we added that on. Dr. Lett is making her way up and she can speak to that specifically.
Good evening, everyone. So to answer that question, the currently enrolled VIP students would still have access to the curriculum that they currently have access to with Edgenuity. We would filter them through the in-school academies at the high school in terms of their course programming because they don't come to school face-to-face. They'll still be doing that same curriculum at home.
What about new middle school students that would like to come to
Same
Bibb County?
thing, same option.
So
So that won't change. They'll still be assigned to their home school, but they will do their programming completely online.
And can they remain as an in-school academy student through their entire academic experience?
Yes, ma'am.
And then how does the ISA instruction differ from the VIP instruction?
It's actually quite similar. There's not too much notable difference. There are some components where there is face-to-face teaching. There are some components where it's fully virtual and online, and there are some hybrid components. So that's the same way it's currently being run at VIP now and the same way it's being run in school academies.
And then how does it strengthen the district coordination if VIP students are split up among all the schools?
I'm not sure I follow.
That was one of the slides in here. It said that, or one of the statements in the slides, it'll, right near the end. It says strengthens district-wide coordination of virtual learning opportunities. So I don't see how splitting it up would strengthen district-wide coordination.
So essentially, we're just merging it into all of the buildings. So right now, with it being separate at VIP, it would be merged across all of our high schools and then still open to our middle school. So it wouldn't be a separate school, but it would be open to all schools. So it would be coordinated across all of our high schools.
So are you saying there would be centralized coordination?
No, not centralized coordination, but program coordination. So the courses, the coursework, everything that filters through in-school academy is similar across our high schools. Same with our middle school programming. So what we're saying is we won't have a separate building that just houses virtual, but virtual would be open to every single student in the district. Every single middle and high school student in the district.
Thank you.
Dr. Woodford.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. So my question is, so I'm looking at the summary page. And in the second column, well, the first and the second column, they're under the options, says avoids the renovation of Carter Elementary School, approximately $10 million. Where's that 10 million? Is that in the East Blast?
Yes.
There's our funds that are already there and allocated for the school. So where's the savings in this?
It could be reallocated to another need.
Okay. So my other question is, I don't know a savings for Hartley
I'm sorry.
Elementary School.
We didn't have a renovation project that was going to would happen relatively soon for Hartley, so we didn't include the dollars for it.
Then we got the kitchen.
What'd
I
you
think
say?
there's a kitchen project that is, I think, currently underway. I don't know if Sam's coming or if, yeah, sure.
Let me speak to that a little bit. So you were asking Dr. Woodford about the savings associated with Hartley specifically. Do I understand your question correctly? So the savings that are identified specifically for the Hartley piece, if you notice option 1 versus option 2, it's in the human resources piece. So under option 1, you see where that number is basically twice the number that you see for option 2. So it would give us basically duplicated savings across those kind of administrative and support staff roles. That's where the major savings is on the Hartley side. It would be that, as well as when you think about the operational costs, that's things like school nutrition, the staffing that goes into those programs, that really makes up the support staff and the operational costs associated with this particular option.
Okay. So, when we started, when we engaged in this exercise last year, when we talked about school consolidation, and I asked y'all to consider more than the quantitative data. I asked if the qualitative data could be also considered. So have you thought about the cost in teacher morale? Have you thought about let me look at my notes here. Have you thought about how these exercises erodes community trust in us? So as we engage and we work with our consultants, if we could also include that factor as well, and I don't know how you would qualify that, but I think it needs to be something that needs to be considered. I mean, just looking at the attendance today tells a story. So if we could next time, or as we move further along in this process, just think about that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that feedback, Dr. Woodford. One of the things that we have been very careful to do, this one looks a little different tonight, but typically what we have done is shared information with the board and then immediately had town halls, because it's been important to us to receive that communication from our community. And so we've had an opportunity both through a survey, the same thing would happen here. I think, in fact, we put it as the next steps, where we would have that opportunity for public engagement. I want to make sure that everybody is clear in the room, and I'm so grateful to see so many members of our community. These are options that we're putting here for feedback. These are not definitive options, definitive decisions that have been made. These are opportunities to further the conversation. In fact, we were having a conversation about rezoning and redistricting. We received the directive to go this route and look a little deeper. And so that is how we got to this place. But it does not mean that we are making these decisions without the input of this community. It is mission critical to us that we understand the community's needs and we hear from the community before we bring any final recommendation to this board to take action on. So that is very much a part of the process. It's also listed here in our next steps.
So one last question. What is the plan for facility utilization if the closures occur?
If the closures occur?
Any closures?
Okay.
What would be done with the buildings?
Yeah, you mean what will be done with the building? Is that your
Right.
question?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay, so that is yet to be determined. We can't make that, we cannot make that decision right now. Of course, that would be something the board would have to take some action on, whether that is repurposing those buildings, whether that is another organization taking over those buildings. That's something I can't predict for you right now. I will tell you that we make every effort to try and keep those as viable parts of the community in some way, again, in working with our local partners and other interested parties, but we cannot speak to that right now.
So
We wouldn't
there's
have
no-
that information.
Currently, no plan for these buildings, Hartley and Carter.
We can't make those plans. So we have not had those conversations. We would not be able to do that as an administration. So we haven't had any further conversations other than sharing what we're sharing with you all today. There have been no further conversations about the buildings beyond this space. Again, no decisions were made. And so we have not approached anyone about what would happen with those buildings. We are not allowed to do that. So we have not taken that on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I yield.
Mr. Morton.
Thank you. Mr. Leopold, first I want to ask a process question before I get to more of the substantive stuff. So we've had 2 schools identified. Did HPM come up with those 2 schools?
No, it was kind of an internal collaboration.
Did the system suggest what schools you should consider?
I mean, we talked about all the different factors in all the schools.
Did the system suggest that you take a look at these 2 schools?
So let me speak to that since I represent the system in this process, okay? Again, there are several individuals who are part of this process, other members of our team who have been a part of this very process with us. We do not go into this presentation or to this process stating schools on the front end. So absolutely not. We received this this recommendation, or we work together to come up with this recommendation about schools based on an analysis of the data and the factors that I shared with you a moment ago. So as we've gone through those factors, we came up with a list of schools. We continued to go through that list. We put them in front of cabinet. We decided on what we might want to bring to the board. And that is where we have come to you today.
So you said we looked at every school.
Every school.
So you applied your rubric to every school in the system.
Our process has been applied to every school in this system,
Okay.
both through the rezoning redistricting, because
Okay, so
remember we started there,
Do
a
you
good
have
bit of that
documents
data.
showing that analysis?
We did not do the rubric piece with the numbers because that was not a part of our process, sir. We did go through every single school. We do have artifacts from the work that we have done, and we're happy to share that information with the board.
Okay. So you talked about it.
We went through the analysis and talked through the data. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, there's no number rubric. Let me be clear. There's no number applied and things of that nature, if that's what you're asking for, sir.
And I'll just reiterate, we went through a very thorough process in this practice. We wouldn't dare come in front of this board having not gone through a thorough process. And it was mentioned that these are some that rose to the top among other schools. So what's important tonight as we start this process is to bring our initial findings, receive feedback from the board. We're grateful for that. We're grateful for people who are present.
Absolutely.
This won't be the only time that we get feedback because that's probably just as important as any recommendations or any options, I'll call them at this point, that we bring to the board. But I do want to thank the team for a job well done in starting this process.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is the presentation we have today is the product of the administration working in conjunction with the consultant.
That is our process,
Okay.
sir.
I want you to help me with something. I have been to every meeting that we've had, including the meetings that you presented at. Can you please tell me when the board said close Carter?
The board did not say close Carter.
Okay.
The
we've
board
never
said to
said it.
bring, the board did not
I'm
say
not
close
going to
Carter.
let us board get blamed for something we didn't say.
Yeah, and we did not say that the board said to close Carter, sir. I want to be clear of the statement that I made was that we received a directive to bring back 2 schools for consideration from the board. And that was a part of our budget process for FY27. That was voted on by the board. And so that is what we've done. There was no directive from the board to close Carter. I'll say that for the record. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Leopold, on page 5, there's a statement at the bottom of the page, the upcoming facility study will help to inform and prioritize this strategy. I don't disagree because the efficiency, Lean Frog recommended that we do that. So is that in process?
Yes.
Who is doing it?
So the facility study, again, I'm glad you mentioned that. Lean Frog, of course, recommended that. We decided, of course, we needed that as a part of this work as well. So we have our facilities team who's working with the organization that was elected for this project. That is Antonio Simmons, of course, with our facilities team who's working with them along with HPM. So we're bringing all of those pieces together. I know Lean Frog recommended it, but we wanted to bring that piece together to make sure we have that data to also inform this process.
Who is doing that?
The company that is doing it it's HPM as a third party.
Amoresco.
Okay, and how much are we paying them to do that?
We are not, let me be clear, we're not paying Amoresco separately of this project. What we decided to do was to prioritize schools for this facilities piece that's listed here. So that is under our existing partnership with HPM. Amoresco happens to also be the company that we are considering for the district-wide facility study. Again, that was outside of this. Those two conversations did not happen together, two very different processes, but it happens to be the Amoresco, who is a provider of this work across the nation, across the state, was one of the companies that was available through HPM as well. But our company, our business is with HPM, and they have them as a third
All
party.
right, so are we considering it or are we doing it?
We are doing the facility study for the schools that we have identified. Absolutely.
Oh, just the two?
We're doing it for the schools that we've identified.
The
For
two.
this, we looked at two.
Okay.
But
I-
let me
I
be
sort of
clear.
thought the facilities
Sir.
assessment was recommended for all our schools.
Let me be clear. The facilities assessment, the facilities assessment was recommended as a part of the work with Lean Frog. That's a part of our operational efficiency study. That is happening district wide. That part for the whole district has not launched yet. That is on the efficiency study piece. We are moving forward with what we need to look at for these options so that we can bring more information to the board. So we are doing that through our existing partners so as to not delay the process any further. And that is why we have started with these schools. That does not negate the fact that it is going to happen for all of our schools because we know that's a part of our efficiency work.
Have we budgeted for what it will cost for this study?
The study information across the district, I have to get Mr. Kitchens or someone to speak to. I believe that may be something included with East Plus, but they would have to verify that, sir. I can't speak to the entire district component because that's not a part of this presentation.
I really need some clarification.
Okay, we'll take that back as
Are
a
we-
question.
no, no,
Thank you.
no. This facility study, is it only of the two schools?
The part that is
Or are
listed
we doing
here,
all of them?
the part that's listed here that's happening right now is for these schools. We are doing the entire district for the operational efficiency piece. So there, yes.
We're trying to expedite the schools here.
Well, it seems like me, you made the best decision about what you're going to do in, condition of all the schools. Okay.
If I
Wanted to
may,
do that,
my-
sir.
that would have just, would have
That's a
delayed the
brainer.
process of
That was a
bringing
brainer.
information forward based on the analysis that we've already done. So I do consider this initial. We do look forward to the complete study as we continue down this road. But we were responding to the opportunity that y'all asked us to do, and that is to come at this time to bring you some recommendations. So I want to make sure we treat it as such.
All right. I want to
Exactly.
make sure we're clear on something.
Mhm.
East Blost savings do not go to the general fund.
Were you
No.
clear on that?
Okay, so I want to clear that up because I think people may confuse the two money and say, well, we say 10 million over here, we
No.
can put it in the general fund and do some things there. It doesn't work that way.
That's right.
At
right.
best, with East
Right.
Blost buddy, you reallocate.
That is correct.
All right. Does your rubric consider attendance or discipline?
No, we did not consider attendance and discipline as a part of looking at the consolidation process.
Okay.
We did not. Because again, we don't want to prioritize or overly tax schools just based on an attendance measure alone. That has not been a standardized practice or a best practice in this model. It is not something we've looked at either in our previous iteration of this in 24-25, nor in the present iteration as well.
Okay. I have a VIP question. Is Dr. Lett available to answer it? Or are you maybe able to answer it?
Dr. Lett will join us. You can
All right,
ask the
thank you.
question, sir.
Good
All right.
evening again.
Thank you, Dr. Lett. I asked this question at the town hall we had on May the 18th, and I still haven't gotten an answer. Question was this: is it true or not true that in order for students who live outside of Bibb County to enroll in a Bibb County virtual academy, it has to be a separate program as opposed to one that is run in schools, in our brick and mortar schools?
I don't remember that question. I remembered about
I
a
asked it to Ms.
tuition
Laura
paid question.
Stadnick.
Say again?
I asked it Ms. Laura Stagnick
Laura
in that town
Stagnick?
hall. Elena? I
Oh,
asked it to Elena.
okay. I'll take that back. I didn't get that question, so I will take that back to my team and get an answer to that.
And just for feedback's sake, nobody got a response to any of the questions that were asked. And it seems to me if you're looking at potentially closing a program, you need to know if you're doing apples to apples or apples to oranges. You need to make an informed decision. So also related to that, my understanding that a current structure of our in-school academies is essentially credit recovery using Edgenuity or something like that.
It's a combination. It depends on what the students need in order to graduate.
And who normally is monitoring that class?
Teachers throughout the building.
Okay, are students provided instruction in that setting? Or
As
are they
needed.
working on Edgenuity?
As needed. It would be the same format. For those students who need live instruction, they are provided live instruction. For those students who want to remain fully virtual, they can remain fully virtual. For those students who need a combination of the two methods, they can have that combination of the two methods. But same as with VIP, students can choose which option best fits their family needs and their needs.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Lett. I appreciate it. I do want the answer to the question, please.
I'll take it down.
Thank you.
Quite welcome.
Okay. Just a comment, and then I'll yield to, I'm sure some other board members have questions. To say that, one other last thing. You're right. We just spent about $2.5 million over at Hartley to build out the kitchen. Is that taken into account in your considerations?
We did look at it, and it's one of those things that it had reached the end of its life and was mission critical, needed to be done. The operational savings would cover that in a year or two.
So we just abandon what's in there?
Well, we don't know what the future use of that building is.
All right. Thank you. I will speak for myself that I was about as much shocked as I imagine y'all are when I saw this presentation. This board had not said close Carter.
Right.
We're looking at a school that's been successful. And realize the whole point of this process was to right size this system, to get schools above 450, to try to make some sense because we just don't have as much money as we once did. And it's a reality, and we just have to deal with it as best we can. I notice that under this plan, the students from Carter who were at a school that is not on the voucher list, 2 of the 4 schools they would go to are on the voucher list. And these plans make assumptions that children would go from Carter to all these other schools. I think that's a big assumption. I just do not understand why. And just one last thing, you can go through whatever town halls you want to go through. I am not voting for this. Madam Chair, I'm done.
Thank you. Mr. What's your name? Mr. Freeman.
Check.
Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to start with a VIP question because I've got a whole lot to say about Carter, understandably so. At VIP, if we were to go to the in-school academies, who would be teaching the courses?
You wanted to just stay? Just stay.
It would depend on which school, but teachers, certified teachers would be teaching the courses. So it would depend on which school the student attended.
How many teachers do we have at VIP Academy right now?
I don't know that offhand.
Would those teachers, they've had a chance to respond. I know this isn't the first time VIP has come up Have you heard any feedback from those teachers that they would not move into one of the other brick and mortar schools?
Absolutely.
So we have a high-performing online school that is being copied by other districts in the state with teachers who are doing a phenomenal job. I was happy to see our numbers at graduation this year for VIP Academy. And we're proposing telling those teachers they either have to go to a brick and mortar school that they're not at right now, or they can leave us and go to one of these other online schools that's being developed in our neighboring counties, in hopes that the teachers we have are going to be able to provide the same level of teaching to the online students that they're currently getting from dedicated online teachers, on top of the course teachers in the brick and mortar schools teaching a live class. They wouldn't be designated, you're only teaching online. You're going to have to teach your live class and take care of these online students. Is that an accurate assessment?
That is an accurate assessment.
That just sounds like a horrible idea to me.
So if you will,
I
okay,
welcome your
in
feedback.
all fairness, okay, you said it's a horrible idea, so I do want to respond to that.
Please do.
One of the things that we keep talking about is right-sizing our approach to education, right? And in an effort to right-size, we look at all of our schools. If you take an average high school in our district, like pick any high school, the average number of students that a high school teacher would provide education to is around 180 students, right? On any given 2-day period. The average number of students that we might see in a VIP classroom per teacher might be 11. And so when we talk about right sizing, we're talking about leveling the playing field and giving access to even more students. So for those students who don't want to go to VIP but still want an online experience, we need to right size that.
How many of our students in our brick and mortar schools that are not part of VIP are asking for an online experience?
Quite a few of them.
And
Quite
why
a
are
few
they
of
not
them.
being enrolled?
We
in
don't
VIP?
have enough teacher cadre for them. We
I-
don't have enough teachers.
I still just have a hard time with, I think VIP does so well and is so attractive, possibly because of the student teacher ratio.
We're not negating that. We are not negating that. We are celebrating that. And in fact, we're trying to emulate it across the district. So we're not negating that success.
I think the trying to emulate is where I'm having a problem seeing it realized. I just don't
Fair
know that that's a
enough.
possibility.
It's possible.
We'll see. Let's talk about Carter. I've obviously got some thoughts on it.
Any more VIP?
That's all. Thank you, Dr.
You sure?
Yes, ma'am. Unless something comes up. With Carter, the current, based on these numbers, there's 507 students currently attending Carter under your numbers. What is that capacity at Carter? It's not on the chart. That's why I'm asking.
Oh, it's on an older chart. I want to say it's in the 600 range.
Okay. What is the utilization percentage?
It's well utilized.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about Carter. Is that okay?
Please.
Okay. So we looked at Carter. We've been through this. We've been looking at these schools. We talked about Williams. You said, oh, it's a neighborhood school. We talked about all these other schools that are all important. Like, if we go through this, are we just playing a game where we're looking at these different schools and trying to see which community outbursts the least, and that's the one that we're going to close? Like, that's not what we want to do. We want to create an objective view at this. And when you look at Carter, yeah, okay, it's high performing. We'd love all of our schools to be high performing, but it's in a location where we can distribute those students from Carter and get 4 more schools above that 450 number by doing it. Now, let me continue. And another piece of this is that with the transportation piece, we heard loud and clear that we don't want to take our dollars that we save from the staffing and spend it on transportation. Carter is a wash. I understand that and this is a hard process. There's no school that is easy to close. No one wants to close a school. But it's important to look at these data points so that we don't get caught up and end up in these situations where we're having endless discussions about doing this, because we're always going to find a reason not to.
I think you've kind of hit one of the nails on the head. And I kind of equate it to garbage in equals garbage out. We've given feedback as it's come up through this process based on what we've gotten and we've given feedback on those proposals. If we do this piecemeal, and every time we have a conversation about consolidation, we talk about one school or two schools at a time, you're going to get this.
Sure.
You're going to get the feedback from, they'd be out here too. I love Carter. It's one of my district schools. I take my son who doesn't attend Carter up there to the STEM night, and the community engagement there is phenomenal. So let me just start with that. That being said, I have from the get-go said, as far as I'm concerned, every school should be considered. We have too many. We have too many that are not the right size, and we need to fix that. We need to be fiscally responsible and maximize our state dollars. In my mind, that meant you look at your schools that are too small and figure out which ones to close. Carter does not fit that bill. Along the lines of garbage in equals garbage out, I asked the question, what is the transportation offset of closing a school and then having to bus those kids elsewhere? Is that going to be something to consider? This presentation tonight, I think, is the first time I've seen a dollar figure put to what that looks like. And that was $50,000 per route, and that 5 routes were going to be needed for Hartley. That's the first time I've seen that on any discussion we've had regarding consolidation. Now, asking the question, is transportation cost going to offset our savings, to me should not drive the bus on which school we close. Because Carter, to me, looks like it was chosen solely out of transportation costs. And while you provided that it's cost neutral because we won't have to assign any new bus routes, I don't even know what that transportation cost is right now. So to me, that even being in the rubric is misleading. Because yes, as a board, we brought it up. We had the question, what is closing a school and having to bus these kids somewhere going to be an issue? That does not mean that should be the issue. And that's the immediate thing that jumped out at me when I saw this presentation. Carter has that graph with the yellow dots and the cost per student. It's $14,000 per student. It's on the bottom line. We have underutilized schools. We have under capacity schools that are much more expensive. In fact, as a board, we got a printout a few meetings back that basically said when we've got our lowest schools, our lowest attended schools, it's costing us about $6,000 per student. And our highest attended schools that are in the 600 range is costing us about $3,000 per student. To me, that makes it obvious. That should be a high factor we're looking at, cost per student. And if that's one of the high factors you're looking at, Carter shouldn't be on the radar. When I joined the board, the first vote I had was which schools should we spend East Bloss dollars on and rebuild? And this board voted for Springdale. It was one of our oldest buildings. I mentioned at the time that I used to go to T-ball practice out there in the when I was a kid at Springdale. Sonny Carter, I remember when it was built. My niece and nephew attended it. That gives me a real clue right there, just the difference in the age of buildings. The other school I played practice ball for T-ball at 5 years old was Lane. So throughout this consolidation process, Lane is one of my other schools. And I have thought, I represent a district and I have a zone of schools, the Howard schools and their elementary schools and their middle school. And I thought of the schools in my district, which one would likely be on the chopping block if they went for one of the schools in my district? And I thought it'd be Lane because again, I know how old it is. It looked exactly like it did from the outside as it did when I was 5 years old. Carter did not exist back then. In fact, Zebulon Road didn't much exist back then. So I was more than shocked when I saw Carter on here today. That blew me away for many reasons. But one of the big things as to why I thought, in all honesty, I didn't think one of my schools would be on the chopping block is because one of the criteria we set was looking at growth. One of the reasons I approved us having a consultant to do all this, because I've had conversations with past board members, some of which are holding high office in our community, about consolidation, who did not use a consultant. And they said they just picked the school, they knew what had to be done, and they did it, and it was hard, but they did it. And one of the things I said is, I know what I don't know to some extent. And I don't know about growth patterns. I don't know about where apartments are being built. And what I do know is we had a census. And after getting on this board, we had to rezone. I was elected by a zone that was about this big, and we had to rezone based on growth patterns, and my zone is now about this big. Because North Macon was one of the growth areas. East Macon was a zone about this big that took my old home when I was a kid, because it was one of the declining growth areas. Knowing that fact alone, I would assume that East Macon, or one of those lower growth areas, or one of the high concentrations we have in the downtown of schools, would probably be on the chopping block, just anecdotally. You look down this list, the list you have here of the schools in red, you've got Burned Elementary, Bruce Elementary, Lane Elementary, which is almost there, Porter, Skyview, Williams. Which ones of those are in low growth area? Why are they not being proposed? And so I was shocked, as everybody says. And I understand that, like I said, garbage in equals garbage out, but I'm worried that I provided some of that garbage, and it is now coming back to bite us, and it's given us bad input, gave us bad results. I do want to thank you for the work you've done. You're right, this is hard. And I was fully prepared with whatever the recommendation was to sit down here and say, I went to Tinsley Elementary as a kid. And Tinsley Elementary is not there. So I understand what it means to have your neighborhood school closed and consolidated. It consolidated into Rosa Taylor. I was not prepared for this to be the recommendation and for this to be the reasoning options, but options. Call it what you want. But I repeat that you said we brought 2 schools, and we asked the superintendent to bring 2 schools. He did exactly what we asked him to do, and I commend him on getting this together and getting us these options, because we didn't play around at budget time, and we put a hard deadline on him. We set a meeting date and said, give us 2 schools, and he did. I don't like what he came up with, clearly.
Respectfully.
But if we're going to have town hall meetings and all that anybody is looking at is Hartley and Carter, you're going to have Hartley and Carter communities respond. We had our previous town hall meetings, and what was really on the table was Williams. And the Williams Neighborhood Association, they're here at almost every meeting. And if we talk consolidation and we don't name a school, the newspaper writes about Williams. If we name a school and Williams is brought up, which it was, they respond. Carter, obviously, you mentioned their name. Look what we've got tonight. Thank you for being here. But we're missing the boat. If we're not talking about all of the schools, all of the potential options, to me, I think we've got, 9 schools that are below the 450? We should be talking about all 9 schools. And I would propose as a board that we need to be better involved in the process.
I love it.
We need to be able, since the day I came on this board, I knew consolidation needed to happen. We have been talking about it and talking about it. That's why we were so harsh during this budget, because we've been talking about it and not getting anywhere. But clearly, I think all 9 schools that are under need to be up for discussion. The pros and cons of those 9 schools, and it doesn't just need to be this list of why we're there, because transportation to me is something that I was curious about. It's not the driving factor. It's not the driving force. School performance should be high on the list. Current size should be high on the list. I mean, as I said, to me, we should be talking about the 9 small schools, not the 11 schools that are already where we need them to be. Carter wouldn't even be on the list that I would have thought we were talking about.
Okay.
But we need to be able to talk about the 9 small schools and how we solve that problem. But growth pattern. I mean, if you did what
Got it.
you're talking about here, one of the issues with Springdale is you'd bring Springdale to 100% capacity, which when we built Springdale, I said, build it big enough to consolidate and use Springdale, which they did. But if you put Springdale at 100% capacity, I'm told that's one of our fastest growing districts, which means in what, 3 years, 5 years, what, are we going to have trailers at Springdale? Are we going to say we need to build a Carter because we need more room in that district? That makes no sense to me.
Okay.
So I would propose that if we're going to go the trouble of having feedback and we're going to have feedback on all the schools, that it involve all the schools and not, otherwise we're going to hear about Carter.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for your feedback. And I see Dr. Sims's hand. I just want to, and I want to quickly just respond to that. I appreciate your feedback and explaining that so passionately. Thank you for that, sir. Part of that rezoning redistricting work, and I know it's been a while now, but part of that rezoning redistricting work really targeted in on those schools that are the lower schools, the under 450 schools. And so that was the information that we were presenting. That is what we were starting to had shared and kind of started going down that route. Now we were asked to kind of shift to look at some consolidation options, right? And again, no school was named in that directive from the board, but that was the way that we were looking and targeting those schools that were under the target. That is where we started. That was the recommendation in terms of how this administration approached this work. So we did take a shift to look at consolidation options, but we started in that very space that you spoke about. And we would love to be able to go back to that and continue that work. But again, we wanted to be responsive to what we were asked to do.
I think there are going to be certain schools that no matter what we do are not going to be able to hit 450. And then as a board, because we're the ones who are responsible to the voters, we have to be able to say why we kept that school that's under 450 open. And there are good reasons. I'm sure that every parent out there could name why their school should be kept open versus another one.
Absolutely.
But we're not going to hear that if we keep doing this piecemeal one school at a time and ask to hear from those parents. That's my thought.
Thank you.
So if I may, and I want to be clear in that, this was our effort in response to what we received from the board.
I agree.
So if the proposal, now let me say something else too. I think we've heard enough from our Board of Education to conclude that what we've come up with, the majority of it is you're not in favor of it. I think I've heard enough as it relates to that. I'll seek guidance from the board. So as we move forward, I'm thinking about the very first year. We did an extensive practice in terms of consolidation, which included looking at all schools. And then, of course, looking at rezoning and redistricting, which we didn't land on either one of those at the time. So we are prepared to consider all the work that we've done comprehensively. If now it is the sentiment of the board to not necessarily bring 2 schools, but to look from a different perspective, but also taking into account what we know from the field as best practices in engaging in this work. I agree, no matter whose school it's going to be, it's going to be a problem. And I can say, let me say to this audience, this isn't the best time to talk about this. So as your superintendent, I want to apologize for that.
Right.
Second week of school, it's not the best time. And I hope that all of you can continue to stay focused in the midst of us bringing this information to you at this time, because our children deserve it. You deserve it as well. So I want to make sure I say that on the record. We can continue. We can hear from at the appropriate time, according to the board. We can hear from our public, but I do believe that you've spoken the sentiments that we will hear from our public. Not trying to go home and eat some chicken, y'all. I'm just stating that I think we've heard from this board the sentiments that we need to hear, and this is valuable feedback, and it is helpful in that space.
I do have one brief comment. The reason Carter does not have a walk zone is because nobody in that community trusts public schools and their children go to private schools. Or either it's an aging neighborhood where there are grandparents. Okay? So well, excuse me, that's just my opinion. Okay? I'll just say that, because seriously, they really, a lot of people in that neighborhood don't go to that school. And real estate agents tell people, don't come to schools in Bibb County. So we're lost with that, you know. But that's
Thank you.
the end of discussion. Yes.
I am.
Is that
Dr.
anybody
Sims?
else?
Can I ask one question, please, just for clarity? And again, I want to just say I appreciate the feedback. We are trying diligently to be responsive to what we're hearing from the board and get you the information that you're asking for. One of the things that would be extremely helpful as we are trying to really get this to a place where we can possibly make decisions or not. One of the things that would be helpful for us is clear guidance on what you believe the criteria should be. I heard some things today like academic performance you want as a part of the considerations, but clarity around the specific criteria so that we can get those metrics. Because we have approached this again from what we believe to be best practice. Again, we've done this now for a few years. So we've looked at several different pieces. We want to make sure that we are responsive to what you're looking for. I heard you when you said garbage in, garbage out. Now, I respectfully disagree. This is not garbage, good sir. But I want to make sure that we have clarity around what the board specifically would like to see. And that would help us so that we can get information back to you.
Might I suggest, we've tried this back and forth route, and we give feedback, y'all go work, you come back, and then we get one option. I think it may have been after the Williams proposal. After one of the proposals, it was asked, were there other options considered? Or was this the only thing that was out there? Are there other options waiting in the wings? And the answer was no.
Right.
That all the work led to that one suggestion. It sounds like you mentioned that you brought 2 schools, you could have brought 5. I would suggest that the board have workshops with you
I would love
and
that.
be more involved in this process than has
Absolutely.
happened already. That's just my 2 cents worth.
Absolutely
But
love
I
that.
would suggest that we need to be more involved because y'all take down everything we say, and sometimes what we say, as I said, isn't the thing. But it's a concern, but it's not the guiding thing. We assumed that something else was going to be there, and we didn't even bring it up.
Right.
So I would like to see the board more involved in the process through a series of workshops or a committee or whatever.
would
That's
love
just
that.
my 2 cents.
Thank you for your feedback.
Okay, Ms. Johnson?
My last thing that I want to say. Now, I've said this more than one time, so I'm going to say it again.
Yes, ma'am.
We've had many of these discussions, and all of them come out the same way. Everybody said, leave us alone. So I'm going to reiterate, leave our schools alone.
And thank you for that feedback. And again, I think I can speak for Dr. Sims. It is not our intention to mess with any school. If we had a perfect way, we would keep every single school open and make sure every school was high performing and had all the things that we've talked about today. But unfortunately, given where we are, we've had to make some concessions and look at some options. And we're following the guidance that we were asked to do. But I totally received that, and thank you for your feedback.
That's the guidance that Meredith Johnson is giving you.
I understand.
Leave the schools alone.
Dr.
ma'am.
Ficklin.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just want to commend Dr. Lovett for her way of responding and presenting a good face of the leadership cabinet for the school.
Thank you, sir.
Because there are many things that could have upset you, but you always keep a nice smile on and you accept what is being said in a very professional way, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
And to the gentleman who's with you, the same kind of sentiment goes towards you. I know that to come into a community that you're not familiar with and to hear the kinds of things that you've had to listen to tonight, could be very unsettling to you. But I think that you have tolerated it well. I do have a question about PM, is it called? Leadership. I've been on your website and I don't see anything on your website even close to being germane to making decisions and consulting with schools. It's more contracting and management and all that kind of thing. And my question is, how much school consulting experience does your company have? And is this one of the only ones that you all are doing?
So I will share through Dr. Lovett the link to our planning page. It's on there. I'm part of the planning group, and all we do is K-12 planning. I don't do anything with construction. It's just we're under HPM is a program management
They
firm.
need to post that on the
Yeah.
website because it's not there.
Sure, and
Okay,
I'll send it to you.
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, Mr. Morton, I believe that concludes the business of instructional services tonight.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Boyd. Next, we have the opportunity for visitors to address the board. You got them?
Hear it? No, I know.
All right. So, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. When I call your name, please come forward. I would just ask to try to hold any sort of noise or applause while the person is speaking to give them a chance to be heard, because we want to hear what you have to say. First up, we have Jessica Ramsey. It's okay.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Sims and board members. My name is Jessica Ramsey, a resident of Bibb County, and also I'm here tonight on behalf of the teachers, students, families, and community of Sonny Carter Elementary. We are asking you to please keep our school open. We are asking for one focused action: remove Sonny Carter Elementary from every consolidation scenario. Sonny Carter Elementary School has been part of this community for more than 30 years, so this isn't a decision about an empty building that no longer serves a purpose. It is a decision to sell the property our school sits on in order to help address your financial deficit. And I believe we have to ask ourselves, should our children, families, and staff have to pay the price for a financial problem they did not create? Because when you look at Sonny Carter, you aren't looking at just a piece of property. You are looking at a school that is succeeding. We understand the need for fiscal responsibility considering a deficit, so here are alternatives and requests that we want to present before the process of closing any school campus begins. In order for complete transparency, we request the following. First, we request that the board conduct a formal audit of district spending through an external professional to ensure accountability in every department. We ask that the board consider the costs required for the salaries of our senior cabinet. Georgia counties with similar population size to Bibb County have 2 to 3 assistant superintendent positions, while our district currently has 7, as well as 3 chief officers. While Dr. Sims has stated in response to questions about these salaried positions that they quote unquote earn their money. The question still remains, is a district of our size benefiting from giving financial resources to these positions when school closure is on the table? We ask that a full cost analysis be created and shared that would outline the present fixed operating costs associated with school consolidation, as there is published research out of Stanford that shows how school closure did not improve deficits. We would also request an analysis of how families would leave Bibb for nearby private school options on Zebulon Road, along with the plan for the teacher shortage that should Carter faculty leave Bibb during the possible turnover. We are requesting the entire rubric and scores for all schools be shared with board members, Sonny Carter staff, parents, and stakeholders. Additionally, you could look at strategic rezoning, look at district-wide efficiencies, essentially look at every possible solution before selling a successful school. And if consolidation truly must happen, I ask you to consider this. Why would we close one of the district's strongest elementary schools? If we are serious about improving education in Bibb County, shouldn't we protect the schools that are demonstrating what success looks like? Board members, tonight you have the opportunity to make a statement about what this district values. Do we value short-term financial solutions, or do we value the children who walk through these doors every day? Our children are not line items on a budget. Sonny Carter Elementary School is not just a piece of property. It is teachers, it is families, it is community, it is 30 years of memories. And it is a place where children are proving they can succeed. Please don't make our children and our community the price of a deficit they did not create. You say, help us with these kids. We say, help us with this school. You say, push for the promise. We say, push for Carter. You say, built for Bibb. We say, Carter is built to stay. Thank you.
Okay. Cameron Grayer.
Good evening. My name is Cameron Greer, and I'm a former student of Sunny Carter Elementary. I started Carter in pre-K, and I just finished 5th grade there this past school year. So when I say Carter helped me be who I am today, I truly mean it. Before 5th grade, I did not like science at all. Then I met Miss Botham. She helped open a door for me and taught me to see science in a completely different way. By the end of 5th grade, science wasn't just a subject I liked, it became my favorite subject. And on my Georgia milestones, I earned a level 4 in science. This wouldn't be if it wasn't for Carter. But Carter gave me much more than test scores. When I was younger, I never imagined myself doing some of the things I could confidently do today. Being a safety patrol member taught me responsibility and leadership. Quiz Bowl and the Gifted program helped my confidence skyrocket. Carter also gave me opportunities to become comfortable speaking in front of people, which is part of the reason I have the confidence to stand here and speak to all of you tonight. And because my mom works at Carter, she didn't just have to hear stories about me growing up, she got to watch it happen. Carter has been my school, my community, and a huge part of my childhood. I walked into that building as a little pre-K student and walked out 6 years later as a confident middle schooler who knows I could lead, speak up, challenge myself, and succeed. I know there are difficult decisions that have to be made, but I ask you, if a school has students who are succeeding, teachers who are changing children's lives, families who support it, and a community willing to stand up and fight for it, why should closing that school be the answer? Sunny Carter was named after an astronaut, and our motto challenges students to reach for the edge of the universe. Carter taught me to reach. Please give students coming behind me the same opportunity. Please do not close Sunny Carter Elementary. Thank you.
Next, we have Jacinta Williams.
Good evening, board members, superintendent, families, and members of our community. My name is Mrs. Williams, and I am a first grade teacher at Carter Elementary, and I am a Bibb County resident. I stand before you tonight not only as an educator, but as an advocate for our children and our families. I have been entrusted to serve, and when we talk about closing a school, we cannot simply talk about closing a building. A school is not just brick and mortar. A school is a community. It is relationships. It is stability. It is trust. And for many of our children, it is their safe place. Every morning, my first graders walk into the classroom where they know that they belong. We know their personalities, their strengths, their struggles, and we know how to get them to become successful. Those relationships matters, especially our youngest learners. If Carter closes, our children will not simply be assigned to another building. They may face larger classroom sizes, longer bus rides, unfamiliar teachers and classmates, and emotional challenges of starting over in a completely different environment. I am especially concerned about our students who are already struggling academically and our PC students. These students are receiving interventions and specialized services, and they depend on consistency, routines, trusted adults, and carefully coordinated support. Disrupting those systems cannot have consequences that cannot always be measured by a spreadsheet. For a 6 or 7-year-old child, changing schools is a big deal. This impact does not stop with my first grade classroom. It reaches every grade level. It affects siblings and entire families. It affects teachers and staff who have spent years building relationships with this community. And it affects parents who choose to trust Carter with the most precious gift, their children. Our students deserve more than a decision made by them. They deserve a decision made with them and with the families and educators who know them best. Before a decision of this magnitude is made, I respectfully ask for you to look beyond the numbers, enrollment projections, and buildings. Look at the children who have to live with the consequences of your every single day. Tonight, I am asking you for you to hear us, hear our parents, hear our teachers, but most importantly, hear the voices of the children who may not yet have the words and opportunity to stand before you and speak for themselves. We are their voices tonight. Please consider the whole child and the entire Carter community before you make the decision that could change their educational journey forever. Thank you.
Next, we have Mandy McKinney.
Good evening, Dr. Sims and board members. I know there are several in the room with bated breath as to what may come out of my mouth. I am loud. I sometimes use colorful language in my speech, and I kid around, all for a shared good, to make everyone laugh, especially in tough situations. However, there is no humor to be found in what has been brought here this afternoon. My name is Mandy McKinney. I'm going into my 10th year as Carter Elementary School nurse. I have worked tirelessly to keep students and staff both safe and healthy, even more so when the COVID pandemic forced unprecedented challenges onto all of our plates. I am standing here as a nurse, not a teacher. So rather than accolades on test scores, I can personally speak on the number of staff and students I've helped to heal and nurture, which at times took creativity. Just this past year, a particular student came to me with a stomach ache or a headache every time he had math class. Connecting the two, I decided against futilely medicating them, and we instead sat in my clinic and figured out math together. I've been a nurse for 21 years. In that time, I have used my education and experience to do what was needed in all possible situations. I know what to do. Nurses save countless lives every day, but the danger that this decision could put thousands in is not one that can be fixed with medicine. The 520 current students, as well as the thousands that have and will leave their mark in our halls, are at risk. The same kids calling this place home for 7 years of their lives. There is no book that gives instructions on how to fix this or even make it better. I only have my voice. I will use it until it is gone to say that if this school dies, that the heart of this community goes with it, devastating family after family. From our students, staff, and community, we need you to understand the shockwaves that will ring if this school is shut down. Thank you.
Melanie English.
Sorry. Good evening. My name is Melanie English. I'm a media specialist, a Bibb County resident, and a parent of 2 former Sonny Carter students. I'm also a landlord with more than 10 years experience of owning and managing rental properties in Houston and Bibb County. My husband recently started a contracting business to build new homes and to help us expand our rental business. Because of my experience as a landlord, I know firsthand that families often research the quality and reputation of a school district before deciding where to live. So I have to ask, do we really believe that closing Bibb County's top performing school will look good to others? Will this attract businesses or young families? I think not. In fact, it will have the opposite effect, causing families to leave Bibb or enroll in private schools should you choose to close Sonny Carter. We need to consider the indirect economic consequences of closing a model school like Sunny Carter. When families choose where to live, schools are a major part of that decision. As a landlord and a home builder, if I decide to have homes built in Houston or Monroe County because those communities are more desirable to families, that represents one less home being built in Bibb and potentially one less family enrolled in Bibb. One less home also means one less home paying property taxes and contributing to Bibb County's tax base. Multiply that decision by dozens or hundreds of times by myself or other developers, and the economic impact is significant. Closing the best school in the district is a decision that will affect where families choose to live, where developers choose to build, where businesses choose to invest, and ultimately the future growth and tax base of Bibb County. I ask the board to please consider closing underperforming and under-enrolled schools rather than the shining beacon in the community known as Sunny Carter. Thanks.
Victor Davis.
Good evening, everybody. I probably won't need the whole 3 minutes. I'll keep mine short and sweet. All right. A couple of days ago, I sat in front of a news camera and I said, and I quote, "You can't care about community. You can't care about our children. And you can't care about education with something like this on the table." And I think that I owe the board a little bit of grace after hearing some of the things I heard tonight. It sounds like y'all get it. So again, I'll keep mine short and sweet. I'm a single father. I moved to Macon, Georgia for a job. That's it. Would have been here 1, maybe 2 years. Single father, 2 girls, raised them by myself. Okay? That's hard, as y'all could probably just imagine, unless anyone's in the same situation, I don't know. But here's the point. These teachers and this staff is the reason that 1 to 2 years is going on more like 4 or 5. Okay? They took Miss Phillips took my oldest daughter, Aubrey, who was struggling bad in math. Last report card I got from her last year, A's in math. There you are, I was looking for you. Miss Norris, who also had my oldest daughter, Aubrey, took my youngest daughter, Kylie, who's back there. And these teachers and staff will tell you, I'm not being biased because that's my kid, that's one of the brightest kids in your entire city. This is my family now. I'm not going anywhere, at least no time soon. So I'm just glad to hear that you guys get it. Don't let that school close down.
Pastor Lewis Lockett. Oh, okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Thank you for allowing me to come and speak tonight. I am Pastor Lewis Lockett. I oversee a High Risers Ministry virtual church. I'm also a financial broker, and I'm a community activist. I'm here on behalf of Sunny Carter Elementary School because I am a champion for Sunny Carter. Sunny Carter has demonstrated that they have academic achievement beyond most people's comprehension. Otherwise, they would not have been placed on the list. My wife is an art teacher at Sunny Carter, and I hear from her every single day when she comes home and share with me the successes and failures in the classroom and what she attempts to do to bring all the children up to a level where they can be proud of what they accomplish. It is true that Sunny Carter leads our students by example. It is true that Sunny Carter coaches our students to expectation. And it is also true that Sunny Carter cares for our students with compassion. And I move tonight that Sunny Carter be moved from the list and that their success model be shared with every school that's underperforming. Go Sunny Carter.
All Andrea Bivens.
Good evening. So, all of you do have some information that VIP put together, but I'm gonna kind of flip the script. After seeing the presentation, I'd like to talk about some of the things on the slides, some information that possibly HPM did not have, and some things that just don't quite line up. So looking at the first slide, sustains a high-quality virtual learning option. We've been asking for data about the ISAs and what type of high quality they have. We know what our milestones look like. We don't get any of that information. So it seems very difficult to think that you want to close down the school that's performing well for something that you don't even have data for yet because it hasn't been around long enough. Aligns resources with student enrollment. Well, let's talk about student enrollment. Yes, it's went down. And I can tell you right now, we worked really hard last year to try to bring that enrollment up. And then reimagining virtual learning came. Who wants to enroll their child in a school that you don't even know if they're going to be here next year? And now here we are talking about us yet again. Expand student access to academic extracurricular services. Our students at VIP already have amazing academics, and they are eligible to do the extracurriculars at their home school, so that doesn't change. Reduces duplication of virtual services. I think we brought that one up. The ISAs are the duplication. We're the original. Ensures, aligns programming with the district's strategic and operational priorities. I'm not entirely sure what that one means. How is VIP not aligned with the district's operational and strategic priorities when we have the type of milestone data that we have? That one, I don't even know. Reduction of secondary school administration. We're currently operating without an assistant principal. Was that money factored into this, what, 800 to 950 that gets saved? I doubt it. In addition, increased enrollment at middle schools, saving money with Edgenuity. Do you know that we currently offer over 20 Canvas courses at VIP Academy? Those are free. Those are kids that are no longer on Edgenuity. We also tried to offer another option called Subject, which was cheaper than Edgenuity and better than Edgenuity, and it was turned down. Additionally, the way it's explained to me, our Edgenuity costs more because it's for original credit. What the other schools are using is for credit recovery. So does that mean the ISAs are not paying the money for the more expensive Edgenuity, or are they using that Edgenuity inappropriately? I think that's an interesting question that hasn't been answered. There's a lot more, but there was a lot on those slides, so thank you.
Right. Carol Gooseby.
Thank you, Mr. Morton. Thank you, board. My name is Carol Goolsby, and for 2 years of my life during COVID, I spent my time, my talent, and my energy with these people. These people are my family. And for this board to even think of closing Carter, it's sort of like Major League Baseball telling the Atlanta Braves you cannot win any more games. It's ridiculous. It's redundant. It doesn't work. It doesn't fly. And I'm a product of the school board, school system, graduating from Central High School. I help out at Carter, at Howard, as Coach Hester could testify. Closing Carter would serve no purpose. It would give FPD and Stratford what they need and what they want, and that's our kids. And I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. Not on my watch. To paraphrase Tom Cruise in the movie Jerry Maguire, show us the rubric. Please show us the rubric, and show us the money as well. Please, I'm asking you to remove Carter from this list. It's not going to serve any purpose. It's going to make things worse, not better. I know because I've been in that building every day for 2 years. I've seen it with my own eyes. This is my family here. I'm not going to lose them. I'm not going to lose them on my watch. And I thank you, and I yield the balance of my time.
Benjel Lightfoot.
Good evening, everyone. To the illustrious board members, Dr. Sands, thank you for your time. Thank you for this opportunity today. Again, my name is Benjel Lightfoot, and I stand in the gap today as a Sonny Carter parent. First of all, before I get started here today, I want to say thank you to the Sonny Carter staff. Thank you all for everything that you have done and poured into our children. The principal, assistant principals, the educators, the nurses, the janitors, the counselors, everyone. Thank you for what you have done. On that note, I want to encourage them because this has been very hard for the Sonny Carter staff. Looking at my time. Strong teachers touch lives. In a classroom, a teacher stands, guiding minds with gentle hands, nurturing young hearts and souls, helping them reach their goals. Their words are more than just a lecture. They spark curiosity and adventure, inspiring students to explore and strive for something more. Through lessons, laughter, and tears, teachers shape the coming years, build a foundation strong and true for students to pursue all they wish to do. And these educators have exemplified that. Congratulations for being number one in math and science. Thank you for that. For the rest of my time, I have a fifth grader that attends Sonny Carter. I heard attendance going around quite a bit. My son has had superintendent's attendance for the past 3 years since he's attended Sonny Carter. But you know why? Because he loves going to Sonny Carter. He loves school. He loves learning. All that encompasses the great educators that we have there. On Saturdays during Milestone, these professionals were there with our children on hours when they could have been with their family. They took time away from their personal families and poured it in to the Sonny Carter family. That cannot be replaced. And lastly, I'm not an educator. You see my scrubs. I work in medicine. And there are times where I have to make decisions. And I have different voices pulling at me, whether it be pharmaceutical, whether it be a patient's family. But at the end of the day, I have to make the decision what's best for my patient. And we have to do what's best for the children. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you for this opportunity.
Marissa Wright.
Good evening. My name is Marissa Wright. I am I'm a parent of a former student from Sonny Carter, Logan Henderson, and I am speaking on behalf of her. She wrote this speech, "The House That Sonny Carter Built." If you walk down the hallways of Sonny Carter Elementary on a quiet afternoon, you can almost hear the echoes of laughter from all of the years of memories. You can hear the squeak of sneakers on the polished gym floor, the greetings during the morning announcements, and the rustle of book bags, zippers at 3:00 p.m. To be completely honest with you all, when I heard Sonny Carter moving, my heart dropped. I don't want you all to move, and I still don't. Sonny Carter isn't an elementary school. It is ranked #1 in science and math and #4 in Bibb County. It is the only place that truly prepared me for everything that I am facing now in 7th grade. And the thought of leaving memories just makes me sad. Buildings are made of brick and mortar, but this school was built out of pure heart and unforgettable memories. I think back to my time here and remember the incredible people who made it feel like home. At the center of it all is Miss Reeves, who set the heartbeat for our entire school and made sure every single student felt seen and valued. I think about gym class with Coach Anderson, who always brought the best energy and taught us what true teamwork is like. I think about teachers like Miss Grayer and other teachers have poured into so much time for all of us kids. The foundation they built back then is the exact reason I am able to succeed in middle school today. And of course, I will never forget my time on safety patrol. I want to give a special thanks to Miss Pounds, who runs the safety patrol. She believed in me and gave me the chance to step up into that role. Thanks to her, I got to stand at carpool line every morning and work bus stop helping younger kids and wearing that sash with pride. Sonny Carter gave me my first task of responsibility, leadership, and community. It breaks my heart to watch this school just pack up. It feels sad to say goodbye to the exact hallways where we grew up, lost our first teeth, and made the best of friends. But as much as I wish this building could stay right here forever, I know one thing for sure. The magic of Sonny Carter was never just bricks. It's like every student who ever walked these halls or called it home. They can move, but they can never move the memories. Sonny Carter will always be #1, and no matter where the new building stands, this school will always hold a special place in my heart. Thank you guys so much. Y'all have a good evening.
All right. Our last speaker is Melva Jones. Okay. All right. All right. So we've reached the end of public comment. I want to thank all of y'all for showing up and speaking up. We have a lot of meetings where nobody comes and talks to us. And so we appreciate the time you've taken to come here and let us know what you think. So with that, Dr. Sims, next on the agenda is executive session. Do we have a need for that, sir?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. With that, board members, we've reached the end of the agenda. And Dr. Ficklin, do you have a motion you'd like to make? Motion by Dr. Ficklin, second by Dr. Woodford. All in favor, let it be known by the word aye. Aye. Opposed, no. There is none. It is 8:45 and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for being here.